We'll go on the record.
On the record.
Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's annual Supplier Diversity Conference, where we recognize and celebrate the progress of both of our utilities and our public service companies as they support Maryland's diverse supplier community. Each year we promote a different theme for this diversity conference, and this year's theme is called Rebuilding and Recovery in light of the ongoing impacts of COVID-19. This past year and a half has undoubtedly been difficult for many of our small businesses, particularly those owned by women, minorities, veterans, and members of the LGBT community. Focusing on economic inclusion for this year's conference is an important topic now more than ever, and we'll be hearing from a special panel later on this morning on this particular issue. Of course, the national conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion has come a long way since the civil rights protests that we witnessed last summer. But obviously, we need more than diversity statements and rainbow corporate logos to advance this very important conversation. We need to see actual diversity policies and hard statistics to mark our progress. We also need to see our public leaders and corporate leaders take actions in public to level the playing field.
Yeah.
While we won't be able to answer and address all of these issues today, we do have some statistics to share with you, and they're looking better than ever. As you will soon hear from PSC staff, for the third year in a row, Maryland's regulated utilities and service companies have collectively exceeded their diverse supplier goals, and they soared past the 25% target by spending nearly $1.2 billion with these suppliers in Maryland. $1.2 billion. That's a 12% jump in just 1 year alone, and particularly noteworthy since it occurred during COVID, when overall spending has actually decreased. This is a new all-time record and something for Maryland and Marylanders to be very proud of. As I stressed last July, this conversation on diversity and inclusion must continue past today. I believe that we're collectively stronger because of our different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences, and I know my colleagues at the table share this sentiment. We do have a great agenda prepared for you today with a number of special guests and opening remarks. I would like to note one of our colleagues, Commissioner Anthony O'Donnell, is away on business today and sends his regrets. So let us begin the component of today's meeting with some opening statements from our special guests. I'd like to begin by recognizing the Honorable Corey McRae, who's Maryland's Senator for the 45th District. Senator McRae is the chair of the Senate's Budget and Taxations Subcommittee on Public Safety, Transportation, the Environment. This is an issue that he cares deeply about, and I'd like to turn the floor over to him. Good morning, Senator McRae.
Thank you, Chairman Stanek, and just want to say welcome to everyone, and I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to be joined by, I see Secretary Rhee, so let me always be clear that it's great to be with you, Secretary Rhee. I see a number of my colleagues from the Maryland State Senate and Maryland House of Delegates. I would like to just recognize two that I see that has a very extraordinary expertise around this subject matter. That's Senator Malcolm Augustine and Delegate Ben Brooks. I just want to say, brothers, it's good to be with you today and good to be able to share this with you. To each and every one of the board members of the Maryland Public Service Commission, I say welcome. I'm sorry that my friend Tony O'Donnell, who I got to serve at least 2 or 3 years over on ENT, isn't able to join us, but I'll catch up with him a little later on. To each and every representative of our utility companies, members of our public service committees, I say welcome to all Marylanders who join us today. It is an especially great time to be with you here at this moment. Let me be clear. I find it especially deserving that I join you today at this Supply Diversity hearing, discussing one of the most impactful conversations, as Chairman Stanek stated, around diversity. The ability for our women, the ability for our minorities, the ability for our veterans to be able to compete in an exclusive community that is striving to be inclusive to our communities. I think that this conversation is very welcoming. The $1.2 billion that you're discussing, Chairman Stanek, and the 12% gains that you put forward. And members, as we celebrate the growth that has taken place, I'm sure that you would agree that because there's always more that can be accomplished. So let me be clear. We should celebrate our accomplishments, but there are more gains and accomplishments that are there in the future. This will not be easy, but can only be achieved by partnership. And that partnership is with the Public Service Commission. The partnership is with our utility legislators and those that choose to seek accountability and being intentional with that accountability. So Chairman Stanek and to the members of the PSC, I say thank you. It should be recognized and lift up that more than half of the reporting utilities have reached their diversity goals. So the goals that are in front of them, they have been able to reach them. But it is incumbent of us to put the other 7 reporting utilities and set higher sights for those that have broken those goals for 2021 this year, because there's a lot at stake. So while I'm very, very impressed because during this COVID year, during this health pandemic, we were able to make those 12% gains, let's also be clear that we can also make more out of that, strive for more, and do better. For those that will question, well, what is at stake? I say to you, when we are intentional about having a more inclusive community and being more inclusive with our spending power, it has a direct impact on our public safety, and not some communities, but all communities. What does that look what is at stake? It helps with our job creation, and not some communities, but all of our communities. It helps with wealth building, and not some communities, but all communities. And all of these direct impacts of move, not some of this, the direct impacts that we around wealth creation, job creation, and public safety will have a great impact in moving our communities in the right direction, and not the right direction for just some communities, but I lift it up again, all communities. Brothers and sisters, it is important to recognize, as the stakes are high, and we just discussed what's at stake, as one of the 13 members on the Budget Committee for the Maryland State Senate, we realize this every day. I know that as one of the 47 members, along with Malcolm Augustine, in that Maryland State Senate, we realize every day. I have the distinct privilege, with the support of Senate President Bill Ferguson and the support of Budget and Taxation Chairman Guy Gazzone, to be able to serve as the Public Safety, Transportation, and Environment Committee Chair. And our committee recognizes this each and every day. And then, as one of the 181 members of the Maryland General Assembly, it is very safe to say that we realize the stakes are high each and every day. So once again, Chairman Stanek, to the members of the PSC, I just say thank you for amplifying this very important conversation that's in front of us today. But most importantly, I thank you for pushing our utilities to be their best for the state of Maryland, and leading the conversation across the country around diversity. The foundation that we lay here today, Chairman Stanek, will leave a greater impact for my kids, for our kids, and all kids across the state of Maryland. So I think that it's becoming, and very important for us, as I close with this statement by Maya Angelou. I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better. I believe that in the years to come, we're going to be great and we're going to do better. So Chairman Stanek, I thank you again for this opportunity to be able to share a few words, not just with my colleagues, but for all of those that know that it's important around diversity within our utility industry. Thank you again.
Thank you, Senator McRae, for those impactful remarks, and it's good to see you this morning. I did not see Senator Augustine there, so thank you for flagging him. I see Delegate Brooks and Delegate Queen with us today, and I hope to see more legislators as the morning progresses. Although with the technology, my regrets if I did not recognize all of our members of the Assembly. Next, on behalf of Governor Larry Hogan, I would like to recognize the Honorable Jimmy Rhee, who's our Special Secretary in the Governor's Office of Small and Minority Business Affairs. Good morning, Secretary Rhee. Mr. Secretary, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator McRae, for your wonderful remarks. It really is great to see so many leaders here, Delegate Brooks, Quinn, former commissioners, Frisbee, Simmons, and so on, whose commitment to the diversity space is really second to none. So I thank you, all of you, for being here this morning. And on behalf of Governor Hogan, it's truly an honor and privilege to be here. Allow me to first thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the Commissioners Richard, O'Donnell, Linton, and Herman for facilitating this important annual review of the Maryland Supplier Diversity Program. I want to also thank the commissioners for advocating on behalf of minority and women-owned businesses, because your commitment to their space is vital and truly, truly appreciated. Let me first share my thoughts on state of small business. No business escaped the unprecedented disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic. The lockdown impacted small businesses in major ways. The fact that the state's procurement slowed down during the lockdown was devastating to minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. And despite the challenges, however, economic confidence and business outlook is experiencing a rebound. The Bank of America survey of 1,000 small businesses conducted in March of this year states that 60% of small businesses expect their revenue to increase over the next 12 months. And they are confident that the local economy will improve. And 21% plan to hire more employees in the coming months. So it's important to note how small businesses have changed since the lockdown. The small business community was anything but complacent during the pandemic. 1 out of 3 small businesses added new revenue streams by changing or expanding their products or services. And 2 out of 3 have been building a digital strategy and are using digital tools to optimize operations. And 1 out of 3 now accepts more forms of cashless digitized payments. And almost 50% are interacting with customers virtually, and almost 40% are interacting with employees virtually. So it's important to note what these small businesses consider as the biggest factor, the issue going forward. Almost 80% of the business owners say the vaccine will play a key role in bringing business back to pre-pandemic levels. In fact, the WHO, the World Health Organization, stated that it will be 2022 before we see the worldwide lifestyle at pre-pandemic levels, because that is how long it takes. That's how long it would take to vaccinate enough people to build immunity, perhaps even longer if anti-vaccination fears and superstitions persist. In addition, small business said workforce concerns dominate the current landscape. More than 40% of small business owners have job openings they cannot fill. So given these factors, what should policymakers do to improve the forest in which these small businesses compete? Let's keep things simple and remember the basics. Let's first recognize that we are at a time and place in history where the world is looking for a deeper commitment to supplier diversity. Second, in both the public and private sectors, engaging diverse suppliers have proven to be good business decision. It meets both business needs and promotes job creation. While we engage when we engage small businesses, it increases local investment, which in turn improves the quality of life in our communities. That's very important. So much about this post-pandemic is still unknown. Whether the current crisis is temporary or longer term, the actions we take today will play an important role. As Frank Kelly, the manager of Diverse Business Empowerment with Excellence, stated, and I quote him, he said, "Supplier diversity is simply doing the right thing." So let me conclude by saying, Mr. Chairman, that supplier diversity has the potential to make a positive impact on our economic recovery. So we must all be intentional about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretary Reed, for your dedication and commitment to this important issue. You're a cornerstone for the Supplier Diversity Conference, and it's always good to see you in attendance every single year. I'd now like to recognize my colleague, Commissioner Obi Linton. In the past, this conference was hosted out of the Office of the Consumer Affairs Division. However, this year, it's actually hosted out of Commissioner Linton's office. So I'd just like to recognize him and the work of his staff, Ms. LaQuelli Green, in getting this year's conference off the ground for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. I'll very briefly recognize and thank all of our guests today, who I can see most of you on our screens here. We've got a couple different ones, so if you see me looking away, it's not because I'm not paying attention. But secondly, I wanted to recognize my executive assistant, LaQuelli Green. Most of you have had an opportunity to interact with her during the course of the preparation for this conference. She did a wonderful job in putting it together. She'll only get a little bit of the blame if it doesn't go right. But I think we'll have a good conference today and everybody will be very pleased with the outcome. And I guess thirdly, for those small businesses that are listening today, or perhaps through the conversations that are held with one of you who are in attendance today, I have the opportunity to speak with them. I'd encourage you to keep in mind that the numbers that you hear about today, which are fantastic and are nationwide, are leading numbers for supplier diversity. These are the numbers from 2020. The utility companies are still spending. There's a number of opportunities that are still available. There's business that is still continuing to grow. The electrification of the transportation sector is an issue that this commission is engaged in quite consistently. There's a wide range of different issues that are tied to the development of gas extensions, transmission and the distribution system development, everything from fixing poles to making sure that the lights stay on. If you are interested in being a part of this industry, it's not too late. We're talking about 2020 numbers today, but we're actually spending 2021 money now. So if you know of small businesses that are interested in being in the industry, please encourage them to reach out, interact, and speak with people to learn how to be more involved and engaged. And if you are a small business owner yourself, it's a tough time right now. A lot of companies are struggling, but I want you to keep in mind that this industry is growing and is strong and vibrant. And this commission has always been focused on this issue of maintaining and making sure that the doors of competition are open. As former Commissioner Harold Williams used to say, and as it's been already stated a couple of times here today, there's always opportunity to do better. And so we're looking for that opportunity, and we'd encourage you to remain engaged and reach out if there's a concern about figuring out how to get involved in the industry. So once again, thank you for being here today, for all of you who are guests, and I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your support over the years. Commissioner Linton is modest, but he's been nationally recognized as a leader on supplier diversity issues, and he's the current chairman of the NARUC's Committee on Consumers and the Public Interest, which is effectively the trade association for all the PSCs across the United States. At this time, we will turn to our staff to provide us with a high-level presentation of the annual reports that were filed by all of our public service companies. With us, we have Ms. Anna Joy Harris this morning. She is a junior regulatory economist with the PSC, and she will walk us through this presentation. Good morning, Ms. Harris.
Good morning. Please bear with me as I get your permissions and get our presentation up. Amanda, can you please give me permission to share?
Have it.
It's not saying I do.
Okay.
Now it does. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Anna Joy Harris, and I am presenting the Supplier Diversity Annual Report on behalf of staff. The Supplier Diversity Program, or PC52, has been in existence since 1994. Prior to 2019, it was docketed as PC16. In 2009, the Memorandum of Understanding formally outlined all the requirements that all signatories have to follow in order to ensure that each company meets the 25% aspirational goal. The companies that filed their 2020 annual reports have been doing so consistently at a minimum for the past 5 years, with the exception of one company. This is very encouraging because as the companies continue to file their reports, staff can use this data to spot trends, and the companies can use the report to find ways to collaborate among themselves. The main goal of the Supplier Diversity Program is to encourage each signatory to award 25% of their procurement spends to contractors that are qualified as diverse. These contractors can be minority-owned enterprises, women-owned enterprises, service-disabled veteran-owned enterprises, veteran-owned enterprises, LGBT-owned enterprises, and non-for-profit organizations. In addition, among other requirements, these companies have to file every year, as well as provide a detailed annual plan for the current year and an annual report for the previous year. This year, I'm happy to report that the program has once again met its goal in awarding 25% of the total procurement to diverse suppliers. The diverse spend ratio, or DSR, moved up 3.85 percentage points to 33.54%, which is our highest DSR to date. This increase was achieved by increasing the diverse procurement by 12%, while decreasing total utility procurement by 0.87%. As you can see on this graph, all of the 15 companies that filed their report this year have filed annual reports at some point over the past 10 years. The companies have been more consistent with filing their reports for the past 5 years. For example, since 2009, 7 companies have filed their reports every year, whereas over the past 6 years, 14 companies have filed their reports every year. This is important because it helps facilitate the measurement of annual performances and shows broad participation in the program, which increases the program's diverse procurement. As shown in the slide, the DSR is a ratio which equals diverse supplier procurement divided by total utility procurement. You can increase the DSR by either increasing the DSP, which is the numerator, and keeping the TUP, the denominator, unchanged, or decreasing the TUP while either increasing DSP or keeping it unchanged. Neither of these scenarios is the case overall. This year, the program records the highest total diverse spend procurement. As the graph shows, the difference between the diverse procurement and the total procurement has been decreasing. This year's DSP is $1.198 billion, and the TUP is $3.572 billion. Compared to last year, diverse supplier procurement increased by $128 million, while total utility procurement decreased by $31 million. On this graph, the red line corresponds to the right axis and the blue bars correspond to the left axis. The red line represents the annual percent growth in the DSR, and the blue bar represents the change in percentage points from the prior year. In 2019, the DSR was 29.69%, and in 2020, the DSR was 33.54%. This is a growth of 12.98% and a change of 3.85 percentage points. As you can see, this year has continued the trend of increasing growth in the DSR. Sorry. This table corresponds to the graph on the previous slide. As you can see, the DSR has been consistently increasing since 2012. Annual change compared to annual growth is similar to miles versus miles per hour. Annual change can be seen as steps towards the 25% goal, similar to the distance traveled by a car going from point A to point B. Annual growth represents the average speed at which those steps were taken, or how fast the car traveled as it moved from point A to point B. In the past year, 9 companies out of the 15 have reported increased DSP, which is the diverse supplier procurement. Both last year and this year, 8 companies met the 25% goal. This table shows the amount of DSP spent within the 6 categories this year compared to what was spent last year. Minority-owned enterprises had the largest change in spend at $77 million. LGBT-owned enterprises spending decreased by about $32,000. This table contextualizes the performance of the program over the past 3 years. These are averages over the 3-year period of 2018 to 2020. The average DSP is $1.07 billion. The average TUP is $3.58 billion. The average DSR is 29.87%, which surpasses the 25% goal. The average annual change is 2.9 percentage points, and average annual growth is 10.58%. To conclude, staff will continue to work with all the signatories in order to improve on the above. Staff appreciates the efforts by the signatories to provide us with the data to compile this report. Thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing the progress that is made over the coming year.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. We do have some questions for you, Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Ms. Harris. If you could,
I can bring it back up if you.
Okay. If you could go back to the slide that shows the company filings.
This one?
Yes, that's it. So you reflected here that most of our companies have been filing on a regular basis. I don't believe you have 18 listed there, though. For the companies that have not made a filing this year, did you hear from them at all? Is there any feedback from them as to why they did not make a filing?
So there are a few companies that, if you look in our report, they're in red. And so for various reasons over the past years, they've not reported, and we state in the report why that is. One utility, Elkton Gas, did merge with another utility, and so the numbers are now combined. I believe it was Chesapeake that they merged with. So they're no longer presented in the numbers here, as you can see.
Okay, thank you for that. And I noticed that you also noticed that you mentioned in the report that the association of, AT&T is noted here as making filings over the course of the last 7 years. I just wanted to note that AT&T was they did not sign at the same time as everyone else. So they have less filings filed here, but that's because they've been in the program for a shorter period of time. That's true for a couple of them. All right, thank you, Ms. Harris. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Harris, for this, I would say, rather clinical review of these hard statistics, but the hard statistics is what underlies this program. And we just have to keep looking at the fact that $1.2 billion was spent with these diverse suppliers, and that is quite the achievement. So thank you to staff for compiling the numbers across all of the public service companies. At this point, we will transition to our next guest speaker, Mr. Frank Kelly. He is with the Maryland Utility Forum. The forum has presented in prior years to this conference and to this commission. And we've recently discussed with the forum goal settings, both in the short and long term, helping financially challenged diverse suppliers, and how we could best expand participation in the PSC's Memorandum of Understanding to gain more than 15 or 16 companies in this program. So we look forward to the remarks. Good morning, Mr. Kelly.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. In 2011, as then BGE's Director of the Supply Diversity, I testified on behalf of BGE during the supply diversity hearings before this commission, fully support and use my best efforts to assist BGE with the implementation of the MOU. An MOU signed with this commission in 2009 by several companies doing business in Maryland that established the goal of awarding 25% of their total supply managed spend dollars with diverse certified businesses. Well, I'm back. From PC16 to PC52, my name is Frank Kelly, Manager Diverse Business Empowerment, BGE, an Exelon company, Board Chair, Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, and Interim Chair for the Maryland Utility Forum. Today, on behalf of the Maryland Utility Forum members, I want to thank you for the opportunity to reaffirm the forum's commitment and share with you our goals for the remainder of 2021 and beyond. As for the Maryland Utility Forum commitments, we remain dedicated to the continued success of the Supply Diversity MOU, to providing diverse certified businesses with opportunities to compete for and win contracts. Most importantly, the forum looks forward to continuing our partnership with the Maryland Public Service Commission as we strive to increase economic growth and development for diverse certified businesses in Maryland. While many Marylanders and others around this country wrestle with the physical, psychological, and economic impact of the pandemic in 2020, I can hardly believe it. For a third year in a row, the Maryland Utility Forum members and this commission collectively exceeded the voluntary 25% goal set forth in the MOU. I don't think it could have happened without the support of Commissioner Linton, Ms. Green, and the commission staff. It takes a village. So I called Lord Downing, Commissioner Frisley, Secretary Reed, all hands on deck. Kelly Heron, Valerie Shear, Kathy Nutter, Tracy Fund, whoever would be willing to help us lean in and to meet the goals and requirements set forth in this MOU. And that takes me back to the MOU, which reminds me so much of California's GO 156 document, without the mandate, a template on how to develop a supply development program plan and report its progress. Here's what the Maryland Utility Forum has done with the existing MOUs under the leadership of Jeffrey Trout and Christia Ravenel. The forum has consolidated 3 MOUs into one consistent MOU for all signatories. The document is in its final draft, which was no easy task. I want to thank all the forum members and the commission staff for your support. So how do we lean in forward the Maryland Utility Forum to finish 2021 strong? We set a few goals that I want to quickly share with you this morning. Number 1, continue to assist members in meeting or exceeding the 25% diverse spend target. Develop a pipeline of potential diverse certified businesses for key spend categories within our industry. Continue to provide opportunities for diverse certified businesses. Sharing of the best practices. Ensuring consistency and uniformity in our reporting. Finalizing the revised MOU. And encouraging other companies to join the forum. Analyze the impact and inclusion of the hub zone certification as it relates to the MOU. You see, the forum consists of companies such as BGE, First Energy, and others that recognize hub zones as small business designation for our GSA reporting. However, the forum has members that are not familiar. Therefore, the forum has invited Michelle Burnett, Executive Director, Home Hub Zone Contractors National Council, to discuss the benefits of including hub zone as diverse certification in accordance with this MOU before we can render a recommendation to this commission. Finally, we will select a new slate of Maryland Utility Forum officers. Again, the forum looks forward to continuing our partnership with the Maryland Public Service Commission as we strive to increase economic growth and development for diverse certified businesses in Maryland. This concludes the Maryland Utility Forum report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly, and it's good to see you again. We appreciate your working with all the utilities in Maryland and others to make this program a success. I believe we have some questions. We'll start with Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon again, Mr. Kelly. I should say good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Linton.
A couple of questions for you. First off, I see that once again you're making a presentation on behalf of the forum. Could you describe the health of the forum at this time? Tell me is the forum structured properly? Do you have a chairman, vice chairman,
At this point, as I mentioned, we are in the process, and we will be in our next September the 7th meeting. We will be reviewing the slate of the new officers, making the selection. As you know, 2020 was a tough year, and after March, everything kind of came to a halt. It took us a couple of months to really get our feet back up under us, as our companies were actually moving from in-person, our offices, to becoming digital. We were working from home. So we had a lot of distractions and a lot of challenges. I spent quite a bit of time, I know myself, calling up diverse suppliers, ensuring that their health, that they were okay, that they was aware of the PPP programs that was out there, because we were working with the various banks, trying to continue to keep that access available for these small businesses, because we knew that was important. So I think our attention was a little distracted, but I'm looking forward to in September to selecting a new slate of officers for the forum. I believe we're healthy and strong, and I look forward to riding this thing out, of course, in an electric vehicle.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. I appreciate that. The forum itself, as you know, was not required as part of the MOU, but the utility companies all joined together on their own in order to create it. So it's been an integral component of the success of the MOU. Quite frankly, we wouldn't be here celebrating it without the forum's continued hard work. So I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to hearing about continued engagement from all of the utilities in the forum. If you've signed the MOU, you should be involved and engaged in the forum as the meetings progress. So I think I speak on behalf of all of the commissioners when I say congratulations and thank you for the work that you've been doing, not just in the forum itself, but just in general for supplier diversity.
Thank you, Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to recognize a few more dignitaries have arrived. I'd like to recognize Delegate Pat Young, Chair of the Baltimore County Delegation. And we have representatives from Delegate Brooke Learman and Delegate Mike Rogers. So welcome to you as well. At this point, I'll turn back to my colleague, Commissioner Linton, for introduction of our next panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as the chairman mentioned earlier today, today's panel was intended to talk about the continued impacts of COVID-19 on diverse spend enterprises. Last year, in our panel discussion, we had a number of small business owners who came in and talked about the impacts of COVID-19 in the time of July of 2020. So there was a lot that we were learning at that time, and there was also a lot that we just didn't even know about. So today, a full year later, we have not only the data of the MOU behind us, but we have a lot of experience and a lot of other issues that have come to the forefront since then. So today we've invited 3 guests to join us. To those of you who have been engaged in supplier diversity issues, none of them are foreign to you. You'll know who they are. For purposes of your own reading, we did not include their extensive CVs on our agenda. With us, as you know, we have Laurie Dowling, the Executive Director of the National Utility Diversity Council, former Chairman H. Russell Frisbee, Jr., who's a partner at Stinson, LLC, and Timothy A. Simon, Esquire, who is the consultant and counsel for TAS Strategies, and is also a former commissioner for the California Public Utilities Commission. So at this time, I will turn the conference and hearing over to the panel. I guess we should start with our Chair Emeritus. We'll start with our Chairman Emeritus, Mr. H. Russell Frisbee. Mr. Frisbee, your microphone is on mute.
For that, I apologize. Usually you're telling me to mute my microphone, but anyway, it's a real pleasure, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the Commission for the invitation, as well as for its continuing national leadership, not only in this important area, but also in the area of regulatory innovation, and all of this is linked. I do want to especially acknowledge the work of Commissioner Linton in pulling this together. Also, Frank Kelly, who, I don't know if to say anything about working in the vineyard or whatever, but he's been doing a lot of work on this issue. I am not going to anticipate what Lori or Tim are going to say, but suffice it to say, I'm going to start off by stipulating that the COVID's effect has been tremendous and that its effect will continue unless we take further action. To paraphrase an old saying, when non-minorities catch a cold, minorities catch pneumonia. And I think that's what's happening with regard to the business. I also have to acknowledge Secretary Jimmy Ree, who I've worked on with different things, and he has been really a real trooper. So therefore, today I'm going to focus on the question of engaging, improving engagement and access by diverse companies. In so doing, I'm going to ask the same question that Martin Luther King asked in his last book. Where do we go from here, chaos or community? We know the chaos of COVID's here. The question, therefore, is whether and how we can move forward. As to whether all the studies, and I know Lori's going to talk about it, demonstrate the importance of moving forward. This is particularly important here where we're talking about regulated industries whose employee population is aging. Many of the important jobs can't be outsourced, and the companies are provided of last resort. One last paraphrase, to paraphrase Frank Kelly, we are not only talking about doing the right thing, but doing the smart thing. And that's important, that this is the smart thing to do. Now, I'm going to focus on energy for two reasons. First, the need to accommodate the energy revolution. The Commission has spent a lot of time talking about the energy revolution and has done a lot of work. I always go back to Tom Friedman's book, Hot, Flat, and Crowded, where he called it the energy internet. And he pointed out, and I think that's happening, that you have a situation where customer expectations are changing, everything will be connected, there are going to be new services on both sides of the meters, renewables are going to have a significant share, and electricity will be critical. We already know that trillions are being spent on new technologies, infrastructure, whether it's smart grid, solar, EVs, battery storage, microgrids, et cetera. This is not only going to result in many new services and capabilities on both sides of the meter, but also on-site work that can't be outsourced and will result in millions of dollars flowing into local communities. And I think, quite frankly, this is where diverse communities can be particularly effective. The second reason I'm going to talk about it is somewhat personal. I feel the need to ensure energy equity. I was at the FCC when we made some basic mistakes regarding broadband, and as a result, we're still talking about digital inequity 10 or 20 years later. We can't afford to do that in the energy area, and we have to do more. And quite frankly, I only really realized it after I left the FCC and joined the PSC, how important a role the state commissions really have. So today, there are some tremendous opportunities for minority companies in the energy area, which are being generated by the need to invest, to accommodate the previously mentioned market changes, whether they're smart grid, solar, microgrids, EVs, et cetera. There are also new regulatory and social pressures which are affecting utilities. And let's not forget commercial industrial customers as well as governments. Everybody has a role to play. I submit, however, that this is a two-way street. In many instances, success will require what some have called a top-down, bottom-up approach. I like to think about this as essentially being a variation of strategic role that private equity and significant investors traditionally play with regard to growth companies. From the top, utilities and commercial and industrial companies must strive to give more meaningful and more substantive non-service and non-supply contracts to diverse companies. I am not denigrating those contracts, but there's a lot more out there, and we've got to reach a stage where a number of significant, diverse companies can take the lead on projects. Now, some of these companies have fears about the utilities and other C&I customers may have fears about finance capacity, the great man, or I should call it the great person syndrome, where there's one leader and there's no succession plan, as well as governance issues. These are all issues which can be addressed by what I call from the bottom up. And my experience, not only as a commissioner and a lawyer, but also as an industry exec and a utility board member, has taught me that successful companies seeking to grow must have 7 things. First, leadership with vision and support. Second, a recognition of the need for growth. Third, a solid and well-vetted business plan. Fourth, a proper corporate structure and capacity. Fifth, significant capital. Sixth, a willingness to joint venture and partner. You can't always do it on your own. And 7, and as important, a pipeline that develops not only the line employees, but also its future management with a solid succession plan. Because no company is going to work with another company where it could go out of business overnight when the leadership moves on. You don't want to do that. Now, this is not a unique dilemma. The problem, as I mentioned, is that many utilities, outside investors, and financial institutions, as well as the large commercial industrial companies, either shy away from growth companies or limit their exposure in the face of concerns about capacity and governance. Mid-sized, diverse companies are no different. Like their peers, many of them are privately held companies whose growth is often hampered by the reality that management's small, overwhelmed by day-to-day pressures, and in the need of advisory support. Now, in the non-diverse private equity investor world in which I participated, strategic partners, investors, and financial institutions step in to provide strategic advice, even advisors and other support. I've seen this done, and I think it can be done here. Now, I acknowledge that some utilities, venture capital, and private equity groups, as well as industry associations, have begun the process. There are for instance, some funds that are focused on investing in diverse companies, particularly in the clean tech renewable space. Other companies utilities have put together programs to work with, identify and work with diverse companies. But more has to be done. And therefore, in closing, I urge the commission not only to look at the numbers, but to look behind the veil and recognize that if you're going to have real growth, you're going to need to promote those strategic partnerships. And those strategic partnerships are in the interest of everyone, given what I talked about in terms of the industry, what we need done, and the source of potential companies and workers who can accomplish this. So again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Commissioner Linton, I really want to thank you for the invitation to speak. Take care. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Frisbee. We appreciate your comments here this morning. Why don't we next move to Ms. Laurie Dowling, the Executive Director for the National Utilities Diversity Council.
Good morning, Commissioner Linton, Chair Stanek, Commissioners, Secretary Ree, distinguished legislators. Thank you very much for letting me join you today and for letting me be representing the National Utilities Diversity Council. First, I'd really like to commend the Commission and the companies that have participated in the MOU process. Your tremendous growth is so impressive, and I'd like to also commend your staff on its excellent reporting. We cite your reports regularly nationally to other commissions and other companies, and so I'd just like to commend you all on this tremendous work. My task today is to report a little bit on the national landscape, the lay of the land, if you will. And I'd like to just briefly remind you of the status that we looked at this time last year. Secretary Rhee reported from the UC Santa Cruz study on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on minority-owned businesses. And I'll remind you that after only 3 months of the pandemic, what we learned from the UC Santa Cruz study, as reported by the secretary, was that 41% of African-American owned businesses went out of business in that three-month period. 32% of Latino-owned businesses and 26% of Asian American-owned businesses went out of business during that period. So when we gathered together here last year, we were looking at a very dire situation for diverse business enterprises nationally. Since that time, there have been numerous studies from entities ranging from academic institutions to the federal government to, as Secretary Rhee reported this time, Bank of America and other financial institutions, et cetera, that have really looked for the first time in a long time at the needs and experiences of minority-owned businesses. This is a positive thing. We've had a lot more attention to the topic of minority-owned businesses in this past 12 months than we have in many years, maybe even decades. And what I'd like to do is to tell you just a little bit about the status that we see. First of all, as you all know, after a challenging rollout and the strong effort of community organizations, including ethnic chambers of commerce, PPP and EIDL and other federal programs made their way into the small business community, especially the diverse business community, again, after a sort of a challenging rollout in which those funds were not really available in the first couple of rounds. Reimagine Main Street, which is a consortium of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Pacific Islander Chamber of Commerce, has done a number of studies looking at the national experience of diverse business enterprises and small businesses. And the most recent study that they did, I think, is really telling. This is from just this past May, so just a little over a month ago. As Russell mentioned, there is a real optimism among diverse business enterprises at this time. 87% of Latino and 83% of African-American business owners are optimistic about the future. That is a significant change from 12 months ago. And I think that is in part driven by not only the impact of federal funding, but also, as they cited, the positive future based on the fact that there is a vaccine for the COVID virus. The recovery, however, has not been experienced equally. And what we have seen is that Latino males and white men and women have had the most feeling that business is returning to normal, but that other entrepreneurs of color have not experienced that in the same way. One of the most significant needs that they report is that the need for revenue, as Russell mentioned, is very significant. And entrepreneurs of color feel much less confident about accessing funding than other entrepreneurs, especially whether that be micro enterprises all the way up to even large small businesses. The majority of businesses surveyed applied for federal aid, though African-American and Latino enterprises were much less likely to be funded at the level that they requested. In fact, those enterprises were funded at just under half the level of white enterprises. In other words, a white business was much more likely to be funded at the amount that it requested or above it than their African-American or Latino-owned counterpart. Those companies were, less of those companies were the amount that they requested. Additionally, one of the things that has been called out by many people in the country has been the sort of inequity of experience that communities of color, especially entrepreneurs of color, have had. African-American entrepreneurs report that they have received unfair business treatment at a rate nearly twice that of what is reported by their white counterparts. Another interesting aspect of the COVID recovery has been the commitment of non-governmental funding entities, from foundations like the Ford Foundation, Rockefeller, and others, to companies like JP Morgan, Comcast with its RISE program, Bank of America, and others, to making funding available to diverse business enterprises, especially African American owned business enterprises, but all minority enterprises. At NUDC, we've been sort of looking at outside of just making loans and sometimes grants available, whether they be in-kind grants or cash grants. We've been looking at what other things that companies have been doing that may be a little bit outside of the box. And there are just a couple of things that I'd like to highlight for you. Some companies have really seriously looked at ways to dramatically cut the amount of time that it takes to pay their vendors. Walmart has now got their time down to pay their small business vendors to 7 days net. That is quite an amazing feat when you consider that 15 days net is much more standard, and sometimes 30 days is not uncommon. Other companies like Southern California Gas Company have looked at supply chain financing as a way to help their suppliers get bridge loans, accessing them with SoCalGas's banking relationships at the favorable rate that SoCalGas is able to command, rather than at the usual rate that these smaller enterprises can command. That's a really innovative thing. I'm very interested in tracking that over time. More locally to you guys, or to y'all, as we say where I come from, I think that BGE has developed a number of programs that causes them to work with the regional minority supplier development councils. And I think that some of the other companies that are reporting today have similar innovative programs to help get more revenue into the stream for the diverse business enterprises that they work with. I'd also like to just call out to you, not specific to this reporting, but a really amazing report that came out from Citigroup just this past year to look at racial inequity gaps. One of the things that it got a lot of press, it came out in October, but I really commend it to you, and I think it's attached to some of the materials that the PSC has for you. One of the things that they posit in that report is that the racial gap between Black and white Americans has cost our nation nearly $16 trillion in lost revenue and lost economic development in the past 20 years. You know, what we know is that the United States thrives when small businesses thrive. And what we also know is that the businesses we use reflect the diversity of the community by creating opportunity, not just for dollar velocity, but also for hiring of employees and really developing opportunities throughout the community. So we just commend you all on the tremendous growth that Maryland has seen in this past year. 12% is astonishing and wonderful, and we thank you for the opportunity to share this.
Thank you, Ms. Dowling, for those comments. We really do appreciate it. This will save all our questions for the conclusion of the panel. And of course, to bring us home would be our final speaker for this morning, Mr. Timothy A. Simon from TAS Strategies.
Good morning to the commissioners, elected officials, and other distinguished guests who are joining us this morning. It is quite an honor to appear before you again. I think I've been before this August tribunal 5 times now, and I'm always amazed by your analysis of your marketplace, both vertical and horizontal. And like Ms. Dowling, I've cited you on many occasions to the California Public Utilities Commission. I also want to commend my distinguished colleagues for their excellent presentation. I should note that Commissioner Emeritus Harold Williams, who I lift up in prayer, he lost his younger brother this week, and myself and former CPUC President Michael Peavy were the co-founders of the National Utility Diversity Council. And every time Lori provides her amazing analysis and foresight, I feel extremely proud. I'll try to come from a different perspective as a Commissioner Emeritus, and I also chair the California African American Chamber of Commerce and our affiliate, the California African American Action Fund, as well as the activities that my firm, TAS Strategies, is involved in as we advise businesses and support African American businesses in their rise out of COVID. COVID is just a continuation of what has been a challenge, and arguably, when you look at incidents like Tulsa and Rosewood and conditions of African American communities in many parts of the country today, what has been a kind of economic warfare that African American owned businesses have had to face in a number of areas, whether it's zoning or redlining and or access to professional services at affordable rates and other things that are needed. With that said, I remain optimistic. Yes, we had a number of businesses that closed, African-American owned businesses that closed in California. We're the 5th largest economy in the world. But at the same time, I'm seeing a generation of entrepreneurs, particularly amongst our younger businesses, that are leveraging technology, that are leveraging fintech, that are leveraging social media in a way that's creating, I think, greater and greater opportunities within the community. And yes, the utility infrastructure is a very important part of that. In California, in 2020, we've reported $12.5 billion in supplier diversity spend, and that's up, actually it's down from 12.7 billion in 2019, and that'll be addressed on October 14th in our CPUC GO 156 hearing, and we encourage all of you here to participate in that, and respecting the Interstate Commerce Clause and our privileges and immunities. We want to have a national dialogue as well as a national utility supplier diversity economy. I had the honor of serving as vice chair under Harold Williams when what is now the special supplier and workforce diversity subcommittee. And excuse me, Commissioner Linton, if I got that name wrong. It's changed from the days of UMAP, but I served when it was the Utility Marketplace Access, where I met many of you. So I think the critical need is to surgically find. I heard once President Obama say in a debate that it is often better to use a scalpel than an axe. I believe we need to surgically find the areas analytically where minority businesses, and in my case, again, as chairing an African-American chamber, African-American businesses are having difficulty in having equity in the marketplace. One of the things that we've done at TAS Strategies is we formed a single purpose holding company. It's called Infrastructure Equity Partners, with the desired focus on diverse companies, as well as majority-owned companies that have synergies that can be monetized and capitalized in the supplier diversity marketplace. My experience, and I should say that my companion is the president of the San Francisco Port Commission, and in attending her meetings and particularly contract awards, I could not help but notice that the winning team always had a diverse partner. That made me proud. Okay, but at the ribbon cutting, oftentimes that diverse partner was not there. Why? Because oftentimes a diverse partner does not have access to the same resources as the majority owned, and in some cases, other minority owned partners on that team. Hence, mechanisms like bridge financing, equity investments. We did not intend this when we created the various rules and regulations that qualified diverse firms to come under the various programs. It was unintended, but in essence, what we've created is a reverse redlining, because diverse firms have to maintain that diverse percentage in order to qualify for the program, which shuts out access to equity or equity infusions in many cases. So as a diverse owned firm, Infrastructure Equity Partners can help entities retain their diverse status while still having access to the private capital markets, working with family offices, foundations, and others as intermediaries, yet beneficial owners. So I encourage other states to look at these types of financial strategies to support our businesses. They're there. They're actively being engaged in the majority marketplace. And in terms of creating that true equity, we should be doing everything possible to make that possible for our minority businesses as well. Last and not least, I chaired the natural gas committee, or the gas committee, for the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners and the LNG partnership with DOE, and had the honor of visiting your liquefied natural gas facility there in Maryland. I've been in an active dialogue regarding the disruptive process that President Frisbee talked about that's happening in the energy marketplace. In 2008, I had the honor of hosting with Mayor Willie Brown, my first year as a commissioner, the new green energy economy. And let me express my disappointment in what I am seeing. I am finding the renewable community and the clean tech community grossly deficient in delivering in the promise of economic opportunity to diverse communities. While simultaneously, I note that in the utility community and some of our more traditional energy resources, I'm seeing a continuum of equity enhancement, including PG&E recently naming 5 minority executive vice presidents, Pacific Gas and Electric right here in California. I urge this commission and every public service and public utility commission in the country to pressure the renewable industry to deliver in diversity and racial and gender equity in the same way that they tout their stewardship of the planet. I see it grossly deficient, and I believe it's long overdue. These are no longer nascent new industries, and many of them are actually held by entities that have a diverse collection of generation assets. It's time. I serve on the board of the national board of the American Association of Blacks in Energy, and I see it firsthand, even in our conferences where the renewable industry is represented by people that do not look like you and I. I think this has gone on for too long, and in their best interest, in the best interest of our country as we move into what is anticipated to be $1 trillion infrastructure plan with a large portion of that focused on energy and particularly clean tech and renewable energy, if we do not exercise the authority that this commission and other commissions have to make certain that these entities are inclusive and not exclusive, we will find ourselves year after year challenging the same dilemmas. So with that said, I want to thank you for giving me this time, and I look forward to questions and answers, and congratulations to the great Terrapin State of Maryland for your continuous growth and providing opportunities to diverse businesses in the utility space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simon, and thank you again to all of our panelists. I give you a round of applause, but it doesn't really work virtually. But I did have a couple of questions for our panelists today. Somebody did give you a virtual round of applause. There it is. One of the unique components of our supplier diversity MOUs is that we've always had a number of utility executives that participated at our annual hearing. You can't see most of them now, but they're all listening in the background. So picking up on the comments that all of you have made, but was most recently made by Mr. Simon, we are in a point right now where we have a significant amount of investment coming in the future in a wide range of different areas, from electrification to renewable energy, a wide range of different areas. Our utility companies are going to be in the center of it and are integral to it. So we have those executives listening here today from all of our utilities in Maryland that have signed the MOU. And as you know, several of those utility companies are own utility companies or serve customers in other parts of the state, other parts of the country. What would be your advice or guidance to them in how to make sure that these new industries develop and continue at their core and at the very beginning to embrace and encourage and help to grow diverse owned firms that would participate in something like our supplier diversity MOU? And that's to all three of you.
So I'll kick it off. I thinking about following up on what Commissioner Simon said, Commissioner Emeritus Simon said. Quite frankly, when you look at it, I think a lot of the renewable work, renewables, et cetera, are going to be provided by the utilities. I think utilities are providing the majority of the solar now. Even in microgrids, I think utilities are going to have a very significant role to play. Clearly, they're going to have a significant role to play with regard to battery storage as well as EV infrastructure. So I think it's incumbent upon those utilities, again, to look behind the veil and do what's necessary to make sure that those minority companies have substantive contracts, that they can do what's necessary to make sure that they say they're the leads, not the subcontractors. And I think Commissioner Simon put his finger on it. Sometimes it may be credit support. Other times, I know, for instance, Exelon has a program where it identifies key minority suppliers and works with them. A number of the utilities have gotten together to fund the Energy Impact Partners, which focuses on funding diverse companies in the clean tech space. So I think it's the utilities really have to take the lead to make sure in all their projects, diverse companies have a significant role to play and do what's necessary, either in credit support, advice, et cetera, joint ventures or whatever, to make that happen.
In California, with our investor-owned utilities, and I've represented a number of companies, both in financing and construction, there is a requirement in the contract of the acknowledgement and following General Order 156 from Tier 1 and Tier 2 and down. And I think that a downstream and upstream approach is effective. But I think for the utility executives that we're honored to have participating today, as well as other energy industries, in my humble view, every aspect of the utility regulatory framework and our energy sector is open for equity, for increased participation. These are largely rate-funded projects, and I believe the additional effort to ensure that it is not hoarded by the larger global capital-intense firms who play a very vital role in our economy, but it is incumbent upon the regulator to ensure that every docket number has that component in place. And when it comes from the regulator, it makes a difference. And encourage and support the entities that are prepared to take that bold step. We've worked with the state of Maryland and your utilities in the financing area, for example, and often the utilities find themselves under the pressure of majority-owned banks in terms of the level of participation of diverse-owned banks. Yet the diverse banks have the same transactional capability on your first mortgage and other debt offerings. Hence, it's important that regulators are aware of the fact that even though banks provide that credit line, that is not core to the actual offering. I offer this as an example. You will find this in other critical areas. And I want to refer to a minute, and I know Commissioner Emeritus and President Frisbee is much more qualified in the broadband and telecommunications space as myself. But for years as a California commissioner, the broadband community would come and say, well, you know, we're not really in a position to spend with diverse companies because everything we do is infrastructure that's capital intense. I beg to differ. You have land right-of-way contracts. You have environmental impact reports. You have various opportunities in the staffing and labor and vendor management. I'm honored to represent the Act One group, for example. These are areas that it's incumbent that executives take a very microscopic look at to ensure that they're doing their part to help our country achieve what many say the founding fathers intended it to be. It's not radicalism. It's not critical race theory. It's sound business sense. And I think that's what has to be encouraged by commissions around the country.
Well, I'd like to share my thanks to this distinguished panel. Oftentimes we hear a set of problems laid at our doorstep without necessarily solutions being associated with it. And I've heard a number of solutions today. I think it was Ms. Dowling who said that there's an inequity of experience for some of the members of our diverse communities. And I know that's true. We've learned some hard truths over the past year, everything from the protests we've seen to the rediscovery of history in Greenwood and the Tulsa race massacre nearly 100 years ago. And it's curious to see how far we've come, or how far and how much progress we've made incrementally with such programs, but what we've lost as well. 16 trillion, I think, is what Ms. Dowling said, lost economic activity over the past 20 years by effectively blocking diverse suppliers and businesses from moving forward. I do take Commissioner Emeritus Simon's comment with respect to our renewable sector. I think you sort of laid bare a truth that we know, that the renewable sector isn't particularly diverse at this point in time. I think we've seen a lot of progress that our traditional utilities have made in the boardrooms, but that's an area that, at least as a commissioner on a regulatory utility commission, we have some degree of influence, or if not influence, persuasion. So I want to thank everybody for their preparation and for providing us with a number of ideas for action going forward today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, at this time, it's approximately 11:20 in the morning. We'll take actually a 20-minute break. We'll reconvene at 11:40 this morning, at which time we'll open it up effectively an open mic. We'll hear from legislators and other business people and members of the public. So we will be in recess until 11:40. Please come back then. Thank you. We will go back on the record in 1 minute. Welcome back from recess. At this point in our supplier diversity hearing, we will be hearing from legislators and interested members of the public. I have a short list in front of me, although I know that other legislators have joined us, so I will open it up to the panel in a moment. I'll begin by just setting a few ground rules. We have only a certain amount of time allocated for public comments today. Some parties have filed comments in advance, and we have those sitting in our docket. I would ask that you please keep your comments to approximately 3 minutes. If you need additional time, I would ask you to please submit a letter or testimony in docket PC52. I will begin by calling on Delegate Darrell Barnes, representing the 25th District in Prince George's County. Delegate Barnes is the chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus. Good morning, Delegate.
Good morning. How are you? And thank you so much, Chairman Sidnick and commissioners, for the opportunity to be here to speak this morning. I see some of my colleagues on this call as well, and I thank them also for being here. This is my first time coming before the commission, and I wish I was coming for better terms and conversations. But I am here for an important reason, and that is to I ask that the commission put in the diversity spend goal, the hub zone companies to participate in the contracting program utilities regulated. I have been getting several phone calls from around the state of Maryland to ensure that they are participating in this program. Looking at where we are because of COVID-19, and I believe that Lori that spoke before me gave some great data on where we are in the state. This past session, we passed a major milestone and came up with a Black agenda that said that we wanted to focus on equity and inclusion. And where we are today and looking at the hub zones within the state of Maryland, I see nothing but equity and inclusion. So I am asking this commission to ensure that they are put into the diversity spend goal for our utilities. It is critically important. I want to reference something that Timothy Simons stated, a quote from President Obama when he stated a scalpel versus an axe. And I am not one of precision, so I don't use a scalpel. I am one more of an axe, that I am here to kind of chop things up and ensure that we are moving in a way that we are really focusing in on our small and minority-owned businesses to ensure that we are talking and including them in this process. I will be having going forward and utilizing my position and asking every major utility and communications company and energy and rail that is funded from the state of Maryland or doing major business with the state of Maryland that will be coming before the Black Caucus so I can understand where their dollars are being spent and to make sure that they are matching or if not surpassing their 25% participation goals for utilizing business, because I believe the $6 billion that they all combined and revenue spent are not being utilized properly for our minority-owned businesses, let alone those that are participating in hub zones. This is something that we do not need a diversity study for, something that can happen and be included. So on this day, I am asking that you all move favorably in making this happen, and I am here to answer any questions that you all may have of me.
Thank you, Chairman Barnes. In addition, we received your letter back in April of this year, and that letter is in the PC52 docket. So we appreciate those comments, and we will take them under consideration.
Thank you.
I would next like to recognize the Honorable Malcolm Augustine. He's the state senator from the 47th district representing Prince George's County. It's good to see you, Senator.
Thank you, Chairman Stanek, and it's good to see everybody here today. I want to start by just congratulating folks on the overall numbers and dollars that are being spent within this supplier diversity target area. I want to share with you that this is very near and dear to my heart. Not only is obviously these utilities come before the Finance Committee where I serve, I think that is obviously it's a place that I get a chance to see a number of you come before us. It's a place that I have spent my entire career. My family is a small minority-owned business, and it's paid for everything that I have on my family, everything that is there. And what I will share with you all is that as that African-American-owned business, we did do things differently. It had an impact on the community. We hired people and gave people a second chance who other people would not provide to. We provided scholarships to children who otherwise wouldn't have been able to provide to go to get higher education. We also provided opportunities for executive level responsibility for folks who otherwise just wouldn't be given a chance, who then moved on to their own businesses or to other corporate entities. This is part of the unseen parts that happen when you spend money with these businesses. This is a subjective area. I mean, you all are within obviously a protected market. And so your entities are particularly in a strong position to be able to have this kind of impact. And I really am pleased that is going on. But I will tell you, I do find real areas for concern. The numbers, while globally look important, I think it's important that we put into context some of what is behind it. The number, Maryland is 51%. And yet, of these numbers, if you really break it down into the numbers, even of the overall spend, because it's important to talk about the total number that obviously that's being spent in this category, but the overall spend is only 13% of the overall spend for utilities in those companies. So that is obviously, we're coming up pretty short. Now, with regard to the Asian community represents around 6% of our total population in the state of Maryland. And given these numbers on here, they represent about 2% of the total spend, which is not good, but I mean, it's something that we can work from. And again, with the Latino community, which is, they represent approximately 10% of our population, but 6% of this spend. So those numbers are fairly, they're not good. We got real work to do. But then that brings me to the African-American community, which represents 31% of Marylanders, but only represent 5% of this spend. And I'm just telling you all that is something that I am very concerned about. I think that that's the way we should be looking at these numbers as well. It's important to look at them from a growth standpoint. I think that's very important. But we need to bring it back to those things that I talked about, businesses like the one that I grew up in, and the things that it does and contributes to the state of Maryland and to our well-being. And so while I congratulate you all on this work and what you presented, I really would look for real progress ahead, but I look to work with you and be a partner in that. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Senator, for those comments and a reality check. Even though $1.2 billion was spent with diverse suppliers, it wasn't necessarily equitable across all of the communities. And that is an area for improvement. I will remark that yesterday I was in Montgomery County at a substation being constructed. And I was struck at the fact that the contractor named Smoot Construction is actually a third generation owned African-American construction firm based out of Ohio, but they have a large presence in Washington, D.C. And I met the third generation yesterday on site, and I was just impressed and surprised to see so many Black and brown faces working on this very complicated state-of-the-art substation being built by Pepco. Obviously skilled labor, and Senator, as you just mentioned, hiring sometimes those people who deserve a second chance or may not get a second chance with other firms. So it was very impressive to see the construction of this facility, very skilled facility yesterday, and it's something for all of us to keep in mind going forward. I would like to next recognize Delegate Benjamin Brooks, who represents the 10th district in the state, Baltimore County. He's also my chairman, the chairman of the Public Utilities Subcommittee on the Economic Matters Committee. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Chairman Stanek, and I also want to say hi to the Secretary Ree and also Commissioner Linton. Yeah, and it's great to be with you all this morning. I think what you're doing here, the supplier diversity hearing, is very, very important. And oftentimes, I was looking at, well, this time I was listening to the information given by Ms. Lori Darling, and she was talking about the numbers. About 41% of the African American businesses failed during COVID. The first question came to mind was, why? Was there a lack of cash flow or what? And as I think it was Mr. Frisbee said that, oftentimes when the rest of America catches a cold, then the African Americans will catch the flu. And that's happened. We've always faced these challenges. As a small business owner, I know I could understand, identify exactly with what he was saying there. There are several things I think that we can do to help promote and secure that these type of devastating impacts would have a lesser impact on the African American community. Our speaker this year introduced a bill. I think it was HB 1210. And what it does is say, if you're doing business with the state of Maryland, business in an amount of $1 million or more, then your board is going to have to reflect the diversity that is in the state. And oftentimes I think I would hope that all businesses would see the value, of having a diverse board or doing what they can do to make sure that those business advantages are being spread across the board. But as a legislative body, sometimes we have to nudge or encourage businesses to establish and pursue and meet diversity goals. When we talk about diversity, oftentimes that term can be interpreted in many ways, But in this particular bill, the bill that was introduced and passed, I might add, it talks about Black people who identify as Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islanders, North American, Native American, I should say, Native Hawaiian or Alaskan, And by identifying these particular classes, we want to make sure that at least these particular individuals are included. Yeah. I think the numbers can be brought up. Here again, I applaud what has been done thus far, but I think the numbers can be brought up. And I think when we do this, we all are the victors from that, because then you're going to get a more robust economy and everybody benefits. And oftentimes when I'm talking to people, I let them know, especially when we're talking about education, and I think the same holds true for business, the shortest distance from poverty to prosperity is through what? Education. And the shortest distance to making this a more robust economy is allowing all Marylanders, allowing all Americans to participate. So I thank you for the opportunity, Chairman, and I'm really thankful for the great information that was provided by Lori Darling, Mr. Frisbee, and also especially Mr. Simon. That's awesome information that was passed on. Thanks again.
Thank you, Chairman Brooks. Thanks for sharing your perspective as well. We know this is an issue that you're close to. We'll next turn to Delegate Pamela Queen, who represents the 14th District in Montgomery County. Good afternoon, Delegate.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to listen in and learn a lot today. I want to make a few points of things to talk about going forward. I think it was great information as my colleague Delegate Brooks mentioned. And so there are a couple things that maybe, we can talk more about. One, I think I'll start with the report by Anna Harris that talked about the companies that have been participating and meeting the goals. And so it was good news to hear that we've had over the last couple of years, 8 to 9 of the companies meeting our goals for diversity participation for our state. But with 15 companies, that means there are about 6 or 7 who have not. And 6 out of 15 is 40%, which to me is kind of large. So if we can talk more about what is happening there and what maybe we can do, what kind of policy things may be needed to help encourage and get those numbers up, that would be very helpful, I think, for us. The other just comments on some of the comments that were made as Delegate Brooks talked to the comments that Lori Darling talked about. I think a lot of it has to do with cash flow. So I don't know if there's any other places where there are policy in place that maybe for cash flow that diversity suppliers get paid net 15 or lower. That certainly would help anyone's cash flow, but particularly in small business and minority businesses. Also, the idea of getting loans at the rates that the prime or the major suppliers are getting. We know often in minority and women-owned businesses, the rates that they are getting for loans are often much higher. So anything we can do there would be very helpful. I think some of the things that Commissioner Simon mentioned in relationships to making sure we have diversity in land access, the types of deals that are being made. There are lots of deals that can be made in this industry, and so the idea of looking at deal making and how well we're bringing together those sorts of things. But also, I don't know if we have anything that talks to making sure that we have minority banks, MDIs involved in this equation of financing things. So if we can look at some of those sorts of issues and initiatives, that might be helpful. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Delegate Queen. Thank you for getting those recommendations on our record. And we will have a transcript that a court reporter is providing us with. So we're taking good notes today. Thank you. Do we have any other delegates that I possibly can't see that would like to speak this morning? Or senators, delegates or senators? Hearing none, I will move. We have a representative from Delegate Mike Rogers. Her name is Marinella Alvaro. Are you with us? Hi, good morning. We think you might be on mute.
Yeah, I am on mute. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to learn so many things that I think will greatly impact the minorities. But I don't know, I have a question. It's a general question, it's a general comment. And I would like to ask if how could incorporation of a financial literacy awareness program would benefit the business, individuals, and families as well? And that's all I wanted to know. And I think, I just believe that everyone should be able to be financially educated. That's it.
Thank you. Obviously, that's financial literacy is a core component for any citizen, but much more important for some of these smaller, diverse businesses who may not know where to begin to access contracts. So we will get back to you and Delegate Rogers with respect to financial literacy as vis-a-vis the program that we run here. But that is a good question. Thank you for bringing that to us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll next turn to Mr.
Congratulations to those regulated public utilities who have worked hard to achieve, and in some cases exceed, the spending goals set by the commissioners. By and large, diverse supplier spend is greater now than ever before. And when interviewing any of the tier 1 primes doing business with any of your regulated public utilities, they will tell you to a T that they are working to improve their spend on a daily basis. Now, that is a testament to the very positive effect your MOU on social economic engineering inclusion in America has had. And ladies and gentlemen, it's here to stay. Thank you, commissioners, for being so inclusive and caring. However, now comes time once again for new boldness in the form of opening up this social economic engineering inclusion to another group of Maryland-based businesses that operate in many sectors of Maryland. At least 35% of their employees from within the communities that they're located. Quite different, much different from all the current certified diverse suppliers that the utilities do business with. They can hire anywhere. Hub zones have to hire from within their districts. Presently, there are 419 U.S. Hub Zone certified businesses in Maryland, with many doing the types of work that your regulated public utilities utilize, from underground and overhead utility construction to information technology and commodity sales and much, much more. Many of these firms are well capitalized, experienced, and safe. Plus, they all have one thing in common. They are housed in geographical areas of the state that need economic boosting. And remember, they must hire 35% of their employees from within their communities. Dear commissioners, since the original Public Conference 16, way back some time ago, you have championed the rights of small and minority-owned businesses. Over the years, you have added veteran-owned businesses and recently LGBTQ-owned businesses to your tracking. So now, let's complete the cycle and add the U.S. Hub Zone businesses. Let's add them because they're the salt of the earth type of businesses, and they hire from their sometimes impoverished communities. This opportunity is about creating and keeping jobs here in Maryland post-COVID-19. Respectfully yours, I request a favorable consideration on this initiative. Yours truly, Wayne Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. I am well aware that you're an advocate for the hub zones, and I appreciate your reaching out to the commission earlier this year to put this on our radar. And rest assured that the commission will be considering this request.
Thank you.
We will next turn to Michelle Burnett. She is the Executive Director of the Hub Zone Contractors National Council. Hello, Ms. Burnett.
Hi, and thank you for allowing me to participate in today's event. I come to you, as you mentioned, on behalf of the Hub Zone Contractors National Council, which is a nonprofit trade association that advocates on behalf of the Hub Zone program. It's a network filled with companies that truly believe and embrace the mission of the Hub Zone program and want to see it come to fruition. I speak to you today on behalf of the 400+ companies that are currently certified throughout the state of Maryland, and to explain a little bit of a backstory about what the HubZone program is. In 1997, the HubZone program was endorsed by Senator Kit Bond as a jobs bill in order to move meaningful jobs into communities that suffered lack of investment. It's unlike any other SBA HubZone program in that it's based on the development of an entire community and not just the individual. So essentially, the whole point was to encourage companies to relocate to these distressed communities so they would hire individuals with the understanding that it would then stem capital investment. In order for companies to participate in this program, they have to have a principal office located in a qualified HubZone area, and they must hire 35% of their employees from qualified HubZone areas. In order for an area to qualify as a HubZone, it has to meet certain characteristics. These are positioned in both urban and rural America, and it's related to unemployment and or median household income. So essentially, these are the poorest areas throughout the state. For perspective, the state of Maryland is broken down into 24 counties, 18 metropolitan, 5 non-metropolitan, and subdivided into 1,406 census tracts. Currently, there is 311 census tracts that are qualified hub zones, and 70% of those are located in Baltimore City and Prince George's County. I was doing a little digging this morning and saw that Baltimore City's poverty rate is currently the highest in the entire state of Maryland at 21.8%, with an 8.8% unemployment rate. There's also 3 counties throughout the state of Maryland that are wholly qualified, and that includes Garrett, Dorchester, and Worcester, which make up about 14% of the landmass of the entire state. So with the HubZone program, like I said, it's not about the individual company, it's about the jobs that it creates and positioning those jobs and facilitating economic growth in those communities. So by adopting the HubZone program, you're incentivizing companies within these areas to hire people. This could make a huge impact on a lot of communities like Baltimore City because it will add an added incentive for somebody to give them an opportunity. So by adopting this, you have the potential to not just help the 400+ companies, but help thousands of people that are living below the poverty line and that are suffering and searching for employment opportunities. So as a person that's lived in a hub zone and seen what this program can do, I really do hope that you guys consider this because it really could change the lives of a lot of people. So thank you guys for allowing me to participate today, and fingers crossed because I really see you guys can make a huge impact. So thank you guys for everything you do and amazing numbers. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Burnett, for coming today and for providing that background and the commentary. Next, we have Antonio Jones. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for Delmark Technologies Incorporated. Jones, hi.
I don't think Antonio could make it. I don't know if Lily was able to come. I saw an email. His wife ended up having a doctor's appointment. So unless Lily was able to participate, I don't believe that he'll be here with us today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Burnett. That is the end of my list of persons that wish to make public comments. Did I miss anybody? Okay, once again, thank you for participating in the conference today, both to our legislators and to our interested members of the public. At this point in our program, we will actually hear from our 15 public service companies. And as we traditionally do, we rank them in such an order where we hear from the company with the highest supplier diversity ratio first, and then we move down the scale. But let me be clear, everybody who participates is effectively contributing to a greater good here. So the fact that we may have some utilities towards the end of the pack not making their goals in no way diminishes their contributions and the efforts towards helping. We recognize that this is an entirely voluntary program and look forward to the reports by all the utilities. And Mr. Frazier, you have an open mic on your system. If you could please mute. Thank you. So we will begin with the honor roll, beginning with CenturyLink, who has dethroned the long coveted position that was held for many years by the Association of Maryland Pilots, who has moved into third place this year. So we'll start with the representative from CenturyLink. If you could probably, if all the companies could please introduce yourself, that may expedite matters. Thank you. Mr. Wesley, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, commissioners and all the participants in this event today. 3 years ago, I came in front of this board because CenturyLink hadn't reported in 5 years. And I made some promises. And the promises I made was to grow the diversity program year over year here at CenturyLink. Last year, because of COVID, we had to do some things differently. And now, hang on a second, just got to pull something up. We developed an extensive outreach program nationally, which included Maryland. Maryland has a little dot on my calendar, is that as I go out for enterprise agreements, when I go out for enterprise agreement, one of the things I do is consider Maryland companies, and I'm also developing and locating companies within Maryland. So just to give you an idea of what we were able to do in the corona environment, we were able to increase our spend in Maryland by 17% last year. We increased diversity spend by 449% overall from 2019. Just to give you an idea, our MBE spend in 2019 was 3.84%. Our MBE spend in 2020 increased to 4.81%. WBE went down slightly from 1.98% in 2019 to 1.58% in 2020. Disabled veterans, we were able to increase it from 6.35%, and understand that our core program is working with service disabled vets, and which we identify all diverse groups within that category. We went up to 60.42%. LGBTQ has not moved, but that is a concerted effort we're putting together now to find, certified companies that can compete in our supply chain. So overall, from 2019 to 2020, we went from 12.17% to 66.42% overall. And this is basically the result of our national program, which saw, just give you an idea of our national program, just give you an idea that, SBE spend increased, WBE spend increased, it doubled in most cases. Disabled vet increased. Veteran hub zone stayed flat, but we have put a concerted effort into the hub zone, and we're seeing the fruits of that this year. 8A was flat, but I just did a run, and the numbers in 8A program is going to increase. So I'm just giving you an idea that, again, when I came in 2019, I made a commitment to this distinguished body, and we are still growing the program going forward.
Well, Mr. Wesley, as they say, promises made, promises kept. I remember when you made that commitment to us in the Reginald F. Lewis African American History Museum a few years ago, back in the summer of 2019. And unquestionably, CenturyLink has not only had the most improvement, but you now have the coveted spot of first place. So we appreciate the efforts that you've made over the past year, and these numbers are astounding. So congratulations.
Thank you. We got more to do. We got more to
That's
do.
what we like to hear.
We're not going to live on our laurels. We want to step it up. And one of the key things also that I didn't mention is development of the businesses that we deal with. So whoever we reach out to, or whoever reaches out to us, we have a comprehensive development, and we develop all suppliers that come to us, or we meet matchmaker events or conferences or virtual conferences. And our goal is to develop them so they become bid ready in our supply chain. And it's definitely, I mean, we're going to see this year overall on a national level, we're going to exceed the $1 billion mark. So we have made some tremendous strides. So I think
thank you for bringing that to our attention, Mr. Wesley. We'll move to the utility in second place at this point. And let me just ask, since we have about 15 presenters, if we could keep it to about 5 or 6 minutes each, that will give everybody time to present. So we'll turn to the representatives from Baltimore Gas Electric.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Ravenel on behalf of Baltimore Gas and Electric. I'm joined today by Mark Case, Vice President of Regulatory Policy and Strategy, and Bernice Lewis, Senior Manager of Diverse Business Empowerment. We're happy to be here to discuss BGE's performance and express our continued commitment to supplier diversity. I'll now hand it over to Mr. Case. Thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Stanek and Commissioners. I've got a very brief set of comments, and then I'll turn to my colleagues for more detail. As Maryland's largest and longest tenured gas and electric utility, we recognized many years ago the value of cultivating a community of suppliers which reflects the state's incredible diversity and increases economic opportunity in our local communities and enhances the quality of the service we provide to our customers. An essential part of our successes at BGE comes from the diversity in all that we do, and our supplier diversity program is a great example. BGE has long developed strategic partnerships with diverse suppliers to bring a variety of products and services to the utility. Last year marked our 28th year since launching our program, and despite the pandemic, it was our best year in supplier diversity. In 2020, BGE spent $463 million with diverse suppliers, representing 44% of our supply managed spend. 12 years ago, when we began the supplier diversity MOU, our diverse spend was only $65 million, or 10% of the total. So we have made considerable progress over that period. The growth reflects the success of a variety of initiatives that we've put in place. For example, our Empowerment Academy Supplier Development Program supports diverse suppliers with executive mentorship, technical assistance, and new opportunity identification. The program has been so successful that we've been asked to share best practices with community partners such as Johns Hopkins, the state of Maryland, the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council, JP Morgan Chase, Dominion Energy, and many other groups. As we prepare for Maryland's energy future, the innovation and skills that our diverse business partners offer will continue to be critical to our success. Tapping into the power of our region's diverse supplier base is an effective way to strengthen our company and fuel the local economy. 28 years of experience has shown supplier diversity improves the quality of our service. It strengthens the bonds that we have with our local communities. And it makes a difference in the economic health of our state, supporting jobs and generating billions of dollars of economic activity. We are proud to share our progress in this year's hearing, and we stand by our commitment to the continued success. Thank you for the opportunity to provide opening comments. Ms. Lewis will now review a short presentation on our initiatives. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Bernice Lewis, Senior Manager, Diverse Business Empowerment for Exelon Corporation. Mr. Chairman and the Commissioners, we thank you for this opportunity to update you on BGE's Diverse Business Empowerment progress. As noted, BGE spent $463 million with diverse suppliers in 2020, which represented 44% of our total spend. Of that, $204 million were spent with Maryland-based suppliers. Of course, achievements in diverse business empowerment are not possible without the leadership of BGE and Exelon senior executives, the guidance of our board of directors, and the commitment of our employees. As with all key areas of our business, our senior executives measure our performance against diversity metrics in support of corporate culture. That way, meeting diversity goals is not just a one-time event, but a continuous and proactive process of defining, measuring, managing, evaluating, and rewarding. Of course, in 2020, the entire world felt the impact of COVID-19. And as an organization, we doubled down on our focus and commitment to utilizing and including diverse suppliers across our supply chain. In particular, BGE increased its outreach to diverse and small businesses to ensure that they were connecting to various businesses, including but not limited to loans, grants, and contract opportunities. On behalf of BGE, Delmarva, Power, and PEPCO, Exelon Corporation provided the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council with a grant of $125,000 to implement a new program that focused on capacity building specifically for African American businesses in the utility industry. Our internal leadership team continued to reinforce to our sourcing professionals our commitment to collaborate with diverse businesses to identify sourcing opportunities and invite potential diverse suppliers to sourcing events managed by our supply chain. At BGE, we promote supplier diversity through a broad network of supplier diversity business advocates. It's a group of director and manager-led employees who are assigned by their respective vice presidents to expand supplier diversity within their respective lines of business. Through regular meetings, these employees set diversity goals, develop strategies, share best practices, and monitor progress toward continuous improvement of our supplier diversity results. Another key element of our growth in supplier diversity is directly correlated to our commitment to diverse supplier development. Since 2013, BGE's Focus Forward Academy has provided a select group of diversity certified suppliers with the tools and knowledge to attain their next level of growth in their business through ongoing mentorship, technical assistance workshops that highlight businesses' best practices. We have rebranded that as the Empowerment Academies. And as Mark mentioned, that's something that we share with our external business partners as well. Also, as a result of the COVID-19, our Supplier Development Academy conducted its first virtual supplier development session, which was entitled Ask the Experts. The session featured an executive panel discussion that highlighted our current state, potential opportunities, and reinforced BGE's overall commitment to supplier diversity, equity, and inclusion. The session featured opening remarks by our CEO, Kareem Kazumi, and a panel of executive-level subject matter experts who gave the diverse participants an 18-month forecast and advice on how to better compete and win contracts with our organization. The event was planned and hosted by American Meeting Inc., AMI, which is a certified NGLCC Capital Global Supplier of the Year recipient. As noted, BGE has a long-standing commitment to diversity and inclusion, and we aspire to be a utility leader in the area of supplier diversity. We recognize the importance of supplier diversity in all aspects of our business and procurement practices. We also recognize the value that businesses owned and operated by veterans and LGBTQ businesses bring to our corporate supply chain. We continue our efforts to identify and support development of LGBT and veteran-owned businesses and continue to provide opportunities for them to participate and compete for our contracts and awards. At BGE, we continue to strive for the inclusion of diverse suppliers across our supply chain. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis, and to the entire BGE team to be effectively the electric utility in the top place. So congratulations to everybody across the street from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now competing for the bronze, we have the Association of the Maryland Pilots. Captain Nielsen is with us again this year. It's good to see you, Captain.
Pleasure to be here. And is Jim McGee here? There he is.
I'm here. Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Everybody see me okay? Great. So thank you once again for allowing us to participate. The pilots are pleased that they're at least a medal winner, although it's not the gold. That was a good analogy with the Olympics coming up, Mr. Chairman. But we, as others have had, although maybe BG&E didn't based on what they just described, but we did have a setback as it relates to COVID. So there were spending categories that have diminished our number. It did go down since last year, but we anticipate that'll turn around and come back up. There was also an issue with the on-site gasoline tank that was a source of diverse supplier spend that was down for a couple months, which caused us to go down a little bit as well. But overall, we are pleased that we're able to exceed the MOU goal, and we're a little bit over 35% this particular year, and certainly look forward to having that increase for the 2021 year.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. It's good to see the pilots among the medal contenders. So we appreciate that. Captain Nielsen, anything additional from you?
I just want to reiterate, the port had a strong downturn, a significant downturn in spring and summer last year, and that did reduce our consumption of fuel, which is supplied by a diverse vendor, in addition to the tank being out of service. And it also postponed a number of the maintenance projects we had because of lost revenue. But I'm pleased to say that we're doing them this year, and we expect our number to rise significantly. Although I don't know if we can get to CenturyLink, but we're going to try.
That is the spirit, and we recognize that your organization is distinct amongst the other utilities and public service companies here with us today. We will next turn to the representatives from PEPCO.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Matthew Seegers appearing for PEPCO. Appearing with me today are Mr. Kevin McGowan, Vice President, Regulatory Policy and Strategy for PEPCO Holdings, and Ms. Bernice Lewis from Exelon, whom you've already met. And we're pleased to give you this presentation on our 2020 diverse spend achievement and to answer any questions you may have. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. McGowan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Stanek and Commissioners. Kevin McGowan, Vice President, Regulatory Policy for PHI and PEPCO. Appreciate the opportunity to appear here today. PEPCO, an Exelon company, recognizes the value of cultivating a community of suppliers that reflects the communities we serve, increases the economic opportunities in our local communities, and enhances the quality of service we provide our customers. In 2020, PEPCO spent $249 million with diverse suppliers, which is 35% of the company's total supply managed spend. That's even more remarkable when you consider PEPCO's diverse certified supplier spend has increased by 40% since 2016 over the 4-year period. An important part of our strength of PEPCO comes from diversity in everything that we do. PEPCO recognizes the importance of supplier diversity in all aspects of its business and procurement practices. The growth reflects the success of initiatives we have developed to enhance our supplier diversity. For example, our Empower Maryland Academy Supplier Development Program, that was formerly known as Target 25, supports diverse suppliers with executive mentorships, technical assistance, and new opportunity identification. Additionally, we continue efforts to identify and support the development of owned and LGBT-owned businesses by providing them with opportunities to participate in and compete for contracts. Since 2017, PEPCO has surpassed their supplier diversity aspirational goal set forth by the Maryland Public Service Commission. This is a direct result of our commitment to supplier diversity. Each year, PEPCO has demonstrated continued growth in its diversity spend base. This has been accomplished through a concerted effort of strategic planning, supplier development programs, and community partnerships, as well as collaboration effort with PEPCO's sister utilities, Delmarva Power and BGE. Collectively, we aim to identify Maryland-based suppliers with our high impact spend areas. And we also prepare for Maryland's energy future and will continue to create innovative ways to increase our diverse business partners. Supplier diversity improves the quality of our service and strengthens the bonds we have with our local communities. Moreover, it makes a difference in the economic health of the state, supporting our jobs and generating millions of dollars of economic activity. We are proud to share our progress at this year's hearing. We stand by our commitment to its continued success and are excited about the future opportunities. And we certainly thank the Commission for its support of these initiatives. And with that, I'll turn over to Ms. Lewis, who will recap the highlights of PEPCO's 2020 supplier results.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, and to the commissioners. We again appreciate this opportunity, this time to speak to PEPCO's progress in diverse supplier empowerment. At PEPCO in 2020, we spent nearly $249 million with diverse suppliers, which represented about 35% of our total spend. Of that, $52 million were spent with Maryland-based businesses. Of course, as we say so often, that achievements in supplier diversity are not possible without the support of leadership and without the support of senior executives, the guidance of our board of directors, and of course, the commitment of our employees. As noted, as with all of our key areas of our business, our senior executives measure our performance against diversity metrics in support of our corporate culture. We are intentional about ensuring that our meeting and exceeding of diverse supplier spend goals is continuous and not just a one-time event. During 2020, we remained intentional and committed to ensuring that diverse suppliers had an opportunity to bid our work and to utilize them across our supply chain. As an organization, we increased our outreach to diverse and small businesses to ensure that they connected to various businesses, whether that be for loans, grants, and other contract opportunities. On behalf of PEPCO, Delmarva, and BGE, the Exelon Corporation provided the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council with a grant of $125,000 to implement a new program that focuses on capacity building for African American businesses in the utility industry. Specifically, our corporate leadership team continued to reinforce to our sourcing professionals our commitment to collaborate with PEPCO's Diverse Business Empowerment Office to identify sourcing opportunities and invite potential diverse suppliers to sourcing events managed by our supply chain. In 2020, more than in any other year, the timely communication between PEPCO's Diverse Business Empowerment Office allowed for the efficient research of best-in-class diverse suppliers throughout our network. And like our sister utilities, PEPCO's internal communications process has been refined to ensure that we are actively sharing bid opportunities with our Diverse Business Empowerment Office, that we continue to coordinate efforts to assist with goal setting, to ensure co-ownership of supplier diversity goals, also to ensure that our Diverse Business Office information is communicated to internal clients and to our external non-diverse suppliers for the utilization of diverse certified subcontractors. We also continue to review current contracts to ensure that we're maximizing our use of diverse suppliers and creating more opportunity for diverse vendors. Just like at BGE, at PEPCO, we promote supplier diversity through a broad network of supplier diversity business advocates, which is a group of director and manager-led employees who are assigned by their respective vice presidents to expand supplier diversity within their respective lines of business. Through regular meetings, these employees set diversity goals, develop strategies, share best practices, and monitor progress through continuous improvement of our supplier diversity results. At PEPCO, we also continue to remain focused on supplier development. In 2019, we graduated the first class of our Diverse Supplier Development Academy, which is formerly known as the Target 25. That program provided diverse certified suppliers with tools and knowledge to attain their next level of growth in their business. PEPCO and its leadership team are very intentional about partnering with these suppliers who have graduated from the program to ensure inclusion on opportunities within the utility that match their capabilities. At PEPCO, we have a longstanding commitment to diversity and inclusion, and we recognize the importance of supplier diversity in all aspects of our business and the procurement practices. And part of our overall commitment to diversity and inclusion, we also established a diverse business empowerment process that was designed to develop relationships with Maryland and DC-based minority businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran, LGBT. And we continue to expand mentoring opportunities to diverse suppliers through our supplier development program. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis, again for your second performance. We appreciate those numbers, and it reflects well on the utility. You may have heard me speak earlier. I visited one of your sites yesterday and saw one of your large minority-owned contractors in operation, and that was good for me to see up close.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We will next turn to the representative from Comcast, Mr. John Conwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. As you know, I've appeared here before. Comcast has a very robust diversity, equity, and inclusion program. Supplier diversity is one prong of that, or one aspect of it. I always like to use a quote from our chief procurement officer. He changes it every year, but it's always very telling as to what we're thinking about supplier diversity. And this year, he's noted that our supplier diversity program is designed to promote, increase, and improve the participation of diverse businesses within our corporate supply chain, including companies owned by women, people of color, veterans, individuals with disabilities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer individuals. You have our report in front of you, and you can see that we've made some strides in several of those areas, and that we continue to move forward. Over the 10 years that we've been filing reports, it's been a good progress forward, occasional setbacks, but it's been instructive for us, or I think it's instructive for everyone to know that you just continue to go at it. You just continue to move forward with these efforts. I will highlight something. Lori Dowling earlier in this meeting had noted that Comcast has a program called RISE. And I did want to mention that because it addresses the question about what's happened with COVID, what's our response, and that type of thing. RISE is a multifaceted program that offers grants, marketing services, technology upgrades. It was created to strengthen and empower the small businesses hit the hardest by COVID-19. As a part of our expanded diversity, equity, and inclusion commitment, Comcast RISE, which stands for Representation, Investment, Strength, and Empowerment, aims to help small businesses owned by people of color navigate the challenges of the pandemic. This includes Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and Asian American business owners, among others. The selected businesses could receive one or more of the following types of elements. They include consulting services for advertising and marketing, media services that could actually include filming and putting on the air 30-second television commercials, technology makeovers, including computer equipment, internet access, cybersecurity services. We choose these recipients quarterly, and for those who are listening who may want to apply or know those who would want to apply, the deadline is July 31st, so it's coming up. So please, if you know anyone, please don't hesitate to spread the word. It's comcastrise.com. In Maryland, more specifically, let's just bring that home. We've had 125 Maryland recipients in 55 different cities. 24 have been in Baltimore, 9 in Bowie, 8 in Upper Marlboro, 7 in Frederick. They represent companies from 13 different market segments, such as health and fitness, retail, education, you name it. So Comcast, as I think you know, has a very strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are striving to make sure that we are doing our part in this space. And we really appreciate the opportunity to come here today and to share that information with you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them, or can certainly provide more information about our programs off the record at another time, whatever is your pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Conwell. We appreciate the submission of Comcast's report. I think it speaks volumes, speaks to the over 30% mark that you've got this year alone. So we appreciate your attendance and participation in the program. Next, we'll hear from representatives from the Potomac Edison Company.
Good afternoon, Chairman Stanek and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share Potomac Edison's results, as well as our continued commitment to growth within Potomac Edison. I am going to attempt to share the presentation with you, but that doesn't seem to be working at the moment. So with that, Potomac will be John McRae, Director of Operations Services, and myself. I will let Dawn kick it off, and I think I am going to be able to share now. Are you able to see my screen?
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. Yeah, we can see it. Valerie, if you can go to the next slide. Yep, there we go. Yeah, I'm happy to report that yeah, we've met our goal every year since 2010, as you can see from the graphic. We've then been above the 25% aspirational goal, clear back to 2013. So continue progress. We do continue to bump up and down based on if we have large projects involved in that year or not, or if those projects are absent. If you go to the next page, please, Valerie. It appears that Valerie might be locked up. So on the
Seems to have a delay.
next page, yeah, we have a quote from our new President and Chief Executive Officer, Stephen Stroll, and it sort of aligns with a lot with what comments have been made earlier today, where by doing business with these diverse suppliers, Steve feels very strong that it fosters a development in those business enterprises and then strengthens the communities that we then serve within our 5-state area. And so we wanted to put that in here to make sure that you understand it's not only commitment locally with Potomac Edison, but also through our parent company with First Energy. You can go to the next slide. I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight a couple of what I'll consider operational things within our program this year. The first is with the Electric Distribution Investment Surcharge, or EDIS, as we all call it. So we've continued to work within that program since it is a lot of local spend. The majority of that spend ends up being with our underground excavators. And so that tends to be local in nature. And 62% of that, I'm happy to report, for last year was diverse suppliers. 36% of that was minority-owned African American and Asian Pacific businesses, and 26% was women-owned businesses. The other thing that we have started within First Energy, and then specifically here in Potomac Edison, is a diverse supplier development program. So we kicked off the first group of that in 2001. And then as we pick a supplier to work with, that relationship continue for a 24-month period. And then hopefully longer after that, just as a normal supplier at that point. It provides opportunities for diverse suppliers, provides access to First Energy and Potomac Edison's leadership group to help with mentoring and relationship building. And we have the ability to provide financial resources to help develop those suppliers as well. We began our relationship with a company called Precision Utility Construction. Precision Utility also works in the EDIS program space. They are an underground excavator. They're an Asian Pacific Islander women-owned business, and they're located within our territory, which is important to us. With this program, we strive to make sure it's somebody within First Energy's territory. And if possible, in a case of Potomac Edison, we would like to try to work with suppliers that are within our footprint as well, if possible. And so I'm happy to report this company meets that category. So with that, I'll turn it back to Valerie to talk about the more what I would consider corporate initiatives.
Yes, everybody's been looking at, what has been the impact of COVID-19. It's had an effect on everybody, both large and small companies. First Energy has been, we always work with diverse suppliers who may be experiencing cash flow issues by changing payment terms or expediting payment to suppliers. This year we were really in 2020, we were really focused on that, just given the nature of everything that was going on. And for those that may need some assistance in any way, we always look to what we can do to provide that assistance. The inclusion of small and diverse businesses in the supply chain process provides an opportunity to explore new processes and solutions while gaining a competitive advantage for our companies. Potomac Edison continues to strive to increase economic growth, and through these efforts in 2020, we brought on 13 new diverse suppliers that provided materials and services to the company. We also brought on a major new company, Rilco, that has been providing substation security to Potomac Edison. It is a Black-owned company, and we've so far, not only in Maryland, but throughout First Energy, spent over $3 million. So it was nice to bring on a new diverse company and have such substantial spend with them during such a trying time. We've also been working actively with the NGLCC to meet and identify potential suppliers that we could work with for any upcoming opportunities. We became a corporate sponsor with the NGLCC and are pursuing becoming a member with the Maryland LGBT. I've attended several events with them and do speak with them quite often to see what we can do to provide some opportunities. As many outreach events this year were virtual, we continue to them in looking for new diverse suppliers. That has been one area of a challenge. What we found is in doing some of the virtual events, there seems to be not always a follow through for some of the suppliers. So we've been trying to follow up from our end to get them engaged, or they're providing the information we need so that we can look at them for opportunities within the company. We promote supplier diversity through monthly meetings with our buyers, ensuring that anybody I met with, they're aware of that, getting the information out to them, as well as we support many advocacy organizations. As I mentioned, there's a list that we work with. We've attended the virtual events and will continue to do so to see what we can do to increase our minority spend. So for this year, we're actually exceeding what our results were in 2020 and hope to continue to keep that goal rising for the balance of the year. So hopefully things will continue on the same track and we will exceed our goal once again. So thank you for the opportunity. Please let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Ms. Scherer, Mr. Maggette again. We appreciate PE's efforts. We recognize you just sort of squeaked over the 25% goal by about a point or so, but that really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things because you're making good progress and have some good thoughts for the path ahead. So thank you both for presenting today. Next, we'll hear from the Washington Gas
Thank you.
Company.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mr. Dodge, loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. I have the happy task this afternoon of introducing or reintroducing my colleague, Tracy Funn. Tracy is our Manager of Corporate Giving and Supplier Diversity here at Washington Gas. She will be making our substantive presentation and we'll both be available thereafter for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Good afternoon, Chairman Stanek, distinguished commissioners, to the elected officials, and to the other presenters today. Again, my name is Tracy Funn. I'm Manager of Corporate Contributions and Supply Diversity. I'd like to acknowledge the other member of our Supply Diversity team, and that is Melissa Adams, Assistant Vice President and Chief Corporate Social Responsibility Officer. I would like to just pause for a moment and acknowledge one person, and that is a gentleman you may have interacted with, Victor Davis. He was formerly with Washington Gas as our Senior Supplier Diversity Specialist. He's taken employment outside of Washington Gas, but I could not make this presentation today without acknowledging that our success is directly attributable to his hard work and leadership and vision, and I wanted to acknowledge him at this time. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So Washington Gas has some form of supplier diversity program for almost 3 decades. We are very proud to have been one of the original signatories of the MOU, continuing to provide greater value and improving the availability of goods and services. We support our business units in their efforts to diversify their supply chain and achieve annual spend targets. Our current program initiatives include the Strive for 35 plan, which is part of our 10-year merger commitment to spend 35% of non-gas dollars with diverse suppliers by 2028. That program is complemented by our Strive for 35 fund, which includes access to capital through loans that are received, approved, and administered by Financial Services Corporation, known as FSC, our fiscal partner. This program includes $100,000 annually over a 5-year period, totaling $500,000 to provide loan capital for diverse vendors. And I will have a short update on that at the end of the presentation. To acknowledge our program is included as part of our annual social governance or environmental social governance program, ESG. It is also included as a part of our value drivers, our scorecard for the company. Next page. So the success of our program relies heavily on internal and external communication and information sharing. And we work with our executives to host an annual Q1 briefing and goal setting session. It allows us to share any updates in supplier diversity and best practices, and allows us to give them an opportunity to set the trend for their target for the year. Those meetings are then followed up by monthly business unit meetings with the executives and their staff, where we can share intelligence that is beneficial to help them meet their target goals, to track spend and review any program needs for improvements and enhancements. Additionally, we are being very successful with our tier 2s through the platform that has been upgraded with CBM, and we attribute much of that spend toward our success for this year. And additionally, you see here listed many of the membership affiliation organizations that we are participatory with, and that has been very helpful in us being able to attend matchmaker fairs and be directly involved with diverse vendors to share information about bid opportunities. Next page. So with assistance from our procurement team, diversity spend reporting processes underwent a major integration and tool upgrade this past year. Previously, executing monthly diversity reporting required manual query pulls and data mining that resulted in limited data and metrics and extensive reporting delays that prevented timely distribution of information. More importantly, this required extensive manpower hours that were not being utilized efficiently, where efforts could have been extended elsewhere. And so the Power BI is a tool that will help us analyze historical data. It provides forecasting tools. It provides an opportunity to share a large volume of information with our internal clients. And I'd like to pause and give credit to Ronaldo Balabat, who was successful in helping Victor to create this power tool. This tool is also used, and I'd like to acknowledge that our supply diversity program is not limited to the Maryland Public Service Commission. We have been actively engaged with the similar program upgrades with the DC Public Service Commission as well. Just wanted to bring that note to you. Next page. So in keeping with the theme and relief and recovery per COVID, we understand that the pandemic presented a number of challenges with economic ramifications for our diverse and small businesses. The required safety measures, key internal protocols, and external strategies required new approaches. And like many industries, in-person business matchmaking opportunities had to shift to virtual platforms, providing valuable pathways to engage with prospective suppliers. Internally, our supplier diversity and supply chain management departments continued to raise the necessity of including and sustaining diverse businesses with the access to be able to bid and do business with Washington Gas. With the improvements to these current reporting tools, we anticipate even more spend next year. And at this time, I'd like to stop and acknowledge that as a part of our relief and recovery per COVID, while it was not directly in the spend, it was secondary because many of these diverse business owners, we understand, have employees and staff and families who needed assistance. So as a part of our philanthropic support, we provided $500,000 to COVID-19 relief efforts. This was to help the diverse businesses with emergency and social safety net services to include food insecurity, rent, utilities, and a host of other needs that were required during COVID. We also expanded information to share about our low-income energy assistance program known as LIHEAP, and then also the signature program developed by Washington Gas almost 35 years ago, which is our Washington Area Fuel Fund, which helps our customers pay their utility bills. So it was an indirect way to help them manage on the personal front. Next page. And so obviously to the star of the day, which are the numbers, and for the figures, we are very happy to present that Washington Gas did achieve a 26.1% spend with diverse non-gas diverse vendors. And we reached a 16.23% spend for gas. These numbers reflect a lot of hard work And we again acknowledge the role that Victor Davis played. I did want to share one update, and we will give a brief mention now because it will be included in our 2021 report. But recently, as a part of our Strive for 35 fund and our partnership with FSC, we did release the first loan as a part of our $300,000 loan program. It was to a diverse vendor in Prince George's County, which is a engineering consulting agency. And FSC was able to parlay that $50,000 loan with other programs that they offered. So this vendor received a total of $190,000 in loan grants to help sustain their business. And so we're very proud of that. And of course, that will be included in our 2021 report. So with that, I'd like to close and thank you again for your time and for the honor of being able to participate in this program. And if there are any questions, be happy to address them at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Fund. Thank you for that presentation and for Washington Gas surpassing the 25% threshold there. A lot of initiatives, including the Strive for 35, as well as that loan payment program, which may be unique amongst all the other participants here today. The next three public service companies that we'll hear from did not make the 25% cut, but just barely within about 2 or 3% they missed it by. So they get the Runners Up Award. We'll start with the Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative, and we have with us Miss Kathy Nutter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm hoping everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm Kathy Nutter, Managing Director of Logistics here at SMECO, and SMECO is pleased to be in attendance to review our 2020 Supplier Diversity Program progress, discuss obstacles, COVID policies, and best practices. To follow the theme of today's meeting, Rebuilding and Recovery, SMECO is happy to report that we continued to successfully operate our Supplier Diversity Program during the year, although the pandemic had its impact. There were some challenges brought about by the pandemic, but we pivoted as necessary to meet them to the best of our ability. We were able to engage with new, diverse companies that supplied pandemic PPE and office signage. In addition, when electric grid commodities became scarce from our contracted suppliers, we were able to work with diverse suppliers that had immediate stock on hand. These types of business relationships have been developed throughout our program years and were rewarding during these unprecedented times. A few minor obstacles that we did encounter were cancellation of face-to-face local and national diversity events. These events give us opportunities to meet new and engage with a large volume of diverse vendors at one time. However, we have participated in the virtual events being offered. However, I personally find there's nothing better than having a meal with a vendor in order to develop and build that relationship. SMECO has had to postpone our on-site How to Do Business with SMECO event until 2022. This event will be held in partnership with local diverse organizations. COVID-specific policies played a minimal role in our continued success. SMECO remained open for business throughout the pandemic and continued all vendor engagements. SMECO continues to engage in best practices to achieve our program goals. Our overall total utility procurement increase was 11%, resulting in a 5.4 increased diverse supplier procurement, reporting from 2019 at 18% to 23.8 for 2020. SMECO is pleased to continue to report overall program increased progress. We were able to increase our service-disabled veteran spend. We are a participating member of NAVOBA. We are scheduled as a presenter actually on July 26th on How to Do Business with SMECO at their Marching Forward Mondays, which is a virtual session to meet with certified owned veteran and service disabled veteran business owners. We continue to engage our internal buyers along with our procurement division to adhere to board policy for the inclusion of diverse suppliers in all bid opportunities if available. SMECO continues to engage in the Maryland Utility Forum to share best practices as well as resources. We continue to join, support, and participate with local, regional, and national diversity organizations. Overall, SMECO remains committed to solidify the structure of the Supplier Diversity Program within SMECO's day-to-day operations and through our vendor partnerships. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Nutter. I would just like to point out for the audience that over the past 8 years, SMECO has made improved gains year over year, starting back in 2012 when your diverse supply percentage was only 2%. So you've gone from 2% to 23.5%. I suspect that trajectory, if you hit a 9th year in a row, you'll be over the 25% threshold. So congratulations.
That's our goal. That's absolutely our goal. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next hear from the representative from AT&T, Ms. Latara Harris.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Such a pleasure to be with you here again this year. I won't state how many years I've been coming because I feel like it's dating us all, but Commissioner Litton did mention that we've been here for a while and really pleased to be back with you again. So many powerful statements during this morning, lots of the elected leaders. Congratulations to you all, commissioners, on doing such a fabulous job of, again, putting together a phenomenal event, even though we are still in the pandemic. I know, Mr. Chair, you wanted us to condense our remarks, so I'm going to kind of cut right to the data. I was going to talk a little bit about how our suppliers were helping us around, getting the necessary materials during the pandemic, but let me get right into this. We are extremely proud of our Supplier Diversity Program and our efforts to support the economic advancement of diverse companies and local communities during a challenging year for all of us. In fact, last year, we gave $100,000 to diverse suppliers to help during the pandemic. The Commission staff has shared our 2020 results, and I tell you, this competitive nature, it's hard on companies like ours when we like competition, but certainly if there's anything to be competitive about, it is this very thing, making sure that we all do what's necessary to get it right. It indicates, though, that at AT&T Maryland's regulated supplier diversity results were slightly below the Commission's 25% aspirational goal. We achieved 23.5%, which represents $15.95 million on procurement of goods and services with diverse suppliers. Minority-owned businesses received 65.61% of AT&T's diverse spend, followed by women-owned businesses with 30.53%. The reduction in Maryland regulated spending with diverse suppliers mirrors AT&T's national trend for all suppliers. In general terms, spend with diverse suppliers for our national program also decreased during 2020 due to ongoing business transformation, the continuing migration from wireline to wireless services, and our investment and focus into new technologies, specifically 5G and fiber. Despite the challenges, however, presented by the transformation of our company and new technology trends, during 2020, the AT&T Supplier Diversity Team implemented new diversity solutions that help mitigate declines in legacy areas. As I shared during last year's hearing, AT&T is also continuing to place focus on our spend with veteran-owned businesses and firms certified as LGBTQ. Although our results from last year were stagnant, we will continue to conduct outreach and identify companies from these categories. Our local outreach initiatives to support events and activities in the Maryland region was conducted in a virtual format to ensure the outreach to diverse businesses would continue. In fact, we were able to participate in more activities as virtual events because the elimination of travel, which allowed us to use our time and our resources more efficiently. So not sure if we're going to be here again next year, but I think we've all experienced a big shift with what we experienced last year. We did conduct those supplier interviews and meetings and roundtable discussions and matchmaking sessions all virtually. We also had to pivot and align with our organization partners, such as regional councils and chambers, to participate in their events. We participated in virtual conferences, trade shows, and panel discussions. Last year, we participated in events held by Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council, Women President Education Organization, DC, U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce, National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce. We continued with executing our Prime Supplier Program and referred many suppliers to our Tier 1 suppliers to support a myriad of AT&T contracts and projects. These efforts allowed more smaller, diverse businesses to have subcontracting opportunities. We are asking our Tier 1 suppliers to not only commit to subcontract with diverse suppliers, but also report to us the number of jobs held by diverse individuals within their companies. We are extending the value chain of diversity with our efforts, intentionality. We recognize the challenges faced by diverse businesses over the last 16 months since the start of the pandemic, and our supplier diversity team, business unit partners, and supply chain organization with our suppliers to provide support. We will continue to stand firm in our commitment to make a meaningful, positive impact on the diverse business community through business fostering, coaching, and supplier mentoring efforts. So I wanted to thank you on behalf of our entire employee base at AT&T. I want to also bring greetings to you all on behalf of Stephanie Bates, who's been at this table for us with us for a very long time. And really want to thank the Commission for your work to engage diverse businesses in the state of Maryland. We share your commitment and we appreciate the time given today. Not sure if I'm under 5 minutes, but I give the time back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. It's nice seeing you again. And to answer your question, if we'll be back here next year virtually, the answer is no. We hope to get back into the community like we did in 2019 when we went to a different venue. So for those listening, if you have venues to suggest, please share them with Commissioner Linton and his assistant, LaQuelli Green. Next, thank you. Next, we'll hear from the representative from Verizon, Mr. Douglas Smith.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. And on behalf of Verizon, my name is Doug Smith, Vice President, State Government Affairs. I'm pleased to join you today once again as part of the consortium of companies that have pledged their commitment to supplier diversity in Maryland. Verizon is proud to have been part of this program since the very beginning. I'm excited to share our 2020 results, though they are a bittersweet picture of how COVID-19 pandemic impacted our business at Verizon. Our diverse spend results for 2020 reflected a significant rebound from 2019 and was due to the concentrated focus of retaining key contracts and vendors as the Verizon sourceable spend dropped precipitously last year. I'd like to share some of our successes and challenges from last year and plans already underway this year. Verizon is proud to continue to be one of the largest diverse spending utility companies in Maryland. In 2020, Verizon invested over $50 million with diverse suppliers in the state. That places Verizon as the 5th largest spend of the 15 companies reporting results for last year. Of interest, this spend was accomplished at a time when all businesses, large and small, were faced with a once-in-a-generation challenge with decreased business volumes, all tied to the COVID-19 pandemic. While the regulated side of our business continues to witness a rapid disconnection of copper landline facilities, the entire business suffered with decreased business volumes. Specifically, we had challenges as we scaled back on many of our projects, but we were laser focused on retaining the work of our diverse vendors. In spite of the challenges, Verizon came within just a couple percentage points from attaining the 25% aspirational goal for diverse vendor spend, which continues to be our focus moving forward. One of our biggest challenges in the diverse vendor space, regardless of category, is finding those diverse firms that offer products and services that can meet our requirements and have the scale and scope to deliver on Verizon projects, which are often very large. As noted in the annual report, Verizon's overall supplier diversity results jumped from 11.3 in 2019 to 22.8% last year, which is a 102% improvement. One of the drivers for our increase was the ability to retain our existing diverse vendors and to actually grow our diverse spend in 2020 by over 2% despite the COVID impacts. We accomplished this growth while our overall sourceable spend dropped by 49% year over year, specifically due to the impact of COVID on our business operations. Our success reflected in the diverse vendor results was in large part associated with continued commitment of Verizon's sourcing organization and their focus with the various Verizon business units to utilize diverse suppliers regardless of reductions in corporate spending. Drilling into the results of the 22.8% diverse vendor spend shows that Verizon's spend with Hispanic-owned suppliers climbed over 15% of our diverse spend. That's a staggering increase of 3,200% year over year. And our Asian-owned suppliers climbed to over 7% of our diverse spend in 2020. That's another jump of 140% from 2019 levels. In the service disabled veteran category, Verizon ranked number 2 among all companies reporting and continues the trend of our commitment to this segment of the diverse supplier space. Highlighting other successes, we demonstrated the importance of women-owned enterprises as they were the largest of our diverse spend percentage at almost 61%. Now, lastly, I want to focus on the category of LGBT. We had our first reportable results for this important group, and we're proud to be going from 0 spend in 2019 to number 3 among all companies this year in this category. Overall, while it's important to note that Verizon added 16 new diverse vendors last year, it's also important to appreciate that 5 of our top 25 suppliers are diverse. To wrap up, I'd like to address what we did to succeed in driving our diverse spend results. We use various programs and opportunities to meet, seek partnerships, and identify a match of diverse vendor skill sets with Verizon's needs in the business. Specifically, we co-hosted a premier supplier academy session with the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce. We also created a 12-month supplier diversity mentorship program designed to provide diverse business owners with an opportunity to learn from Verizon senior leaders. We also created or continued relationships with our key community partners, including 7 of the largest and most influential minority supplier organizations. Excuse me. Our partnerships include volunteerism, contributions, and in-kind donations, matchmaking sessions, and providing speakers at annual conferences. Now, looking to the future, Verizon will continue to participate in outreach activities, hosting webinars, panel discussions to help drive diverse supplier utilization. In fact, by 2030, Verizon will provide 1 million small businesses nationally with resources to help them thrive in the digital economy. We're doing it starting this year as we created a virtual small business accelerator program. So thank you for this opportunity to report on our progress, and I hope you get a sense of the focus and energy that Verizon continues to bring to diverse supplier opportunities in Maryland, and I look forward to coming back yet again next year to share the results of our ongoing efforts. Thank you, and I remain available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You highlighted the main points of your statistics, the fact that the diverse spend for your company has more than doubled in the course of 1 year. It speaks for itself. Thank you again for participating.
Thank you, sir.
We will next turn to the representatives from the Columbia Gas of Maryland.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your time today. My name is Sandra Brummett, and my expanded role at NiSource beginning in January 2021 includes Chief Procurement Officer, and I'm pleased to have this opportunity to participate today for the first time, along with Alicia Wall, who leads Supplier Diversity. As you noted, Columbia Gas of Maryland is one of Western Maryland's leading energy companies, and we provide natural gas service to approximately 33,000 customers in Maryland's Garrett, Allegheny, and Washington counties. We're one of 6 energy delivery companies that's a part of NiSource, who together provides essential natural gas and electric service to nearly 4 million customers. As a leader that's passionate about diversity and a former resident of Maryland, Roland Park Elementary School, as well as a Terp, and new to my role, I have the opportunity to really be bold and re-energize our commitment and reimagine how we can continue to improve and eventually exceed the objectives set out for us. Before I share my thoughts, I'll turn it over to Alicia Wall, who leads Supplier Diversity, to share some key accomplishments.
Thank you, Sandra. Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, and fellow allies. My name is Alicia Wall, and in September of 2020, I became the manager of gas procurement ops and supplier diversity for all of the NiSource operating areas. First, I would like to say congratulations to all of the companies who have met their 2020 goals. Great job and challenge accepted. Although we did not reach our 2020 goal, this is not indicative of the effort and the support that NiSource is committed to giving to this initiative. As the new manager of supplier diversity, I am committed to elevating our supplier diversity program to another level. Some of the 2020 accomplishments that we've had while I've been in this position is we've increased our spend with our woman-owned and minority-owned businesses. We now track our spend with LGBT suppliers, and we've recently revised contractual language with our blanket construction contractors to contractually govern supplier diversity goals with our non-diverse suppliers at their tier 2 level. Other actions that we're actually committed to reinforce our commitment is we're currently developing a supplier diversity dashboard to track and report our supplier diversity spend by category and classification. We are conducting quarterly reviews with Columbia leadership to discuss performance and our list of current diverse suppliers. And we're also developing supplier diversity goals for contractors outside of blanket construction. For 2021, we've had some wins as well. We've also reinvested in our supplier diversity registration tool and database to make sure that we are capturing as many diverse suppliers as possible. We are doing deep dives into each and every category that falls under our taxonomy within the company to do a full assessment of our current suppliers as well as opportunities and potential suppliers. And we are also working on establishing supplier diversity requirements for all sourcing initiatives and scorecards. And so at this time, I will turn it back over to Sandra to address our 2021 goals.
Thanks, Alicia. As noted previously, supplier diversity is central to our effort to build a stronger company and support economic growth in our communities. We believe that supplier diversity drives tangible benefits for the company, our customers, and our stakeholders, and our reporting as part of the MOU is a great way to openly share our desire and our commitment. We are well below where we need to be, and will continue to drive to diversify our supply chain. I know that since I started in my role, we've had intentional commitment with Mark Kempick, who says hello, our Columbia Gas of Maryland president, as well as Chief Operating Officer. CJ Anstead, the VP Gas Operations, and others in leadership are actively engaged, as Alicia mentioned, in quarterly reviews, as well as many communications with our officer group and our management forum to make sure that we keep the conversation about supplier diversity and the critical role that everyone in the organization plays to achieve that at the forefront. We are also looking to increase the number of FTEs specifically focused on supplier diversity strategy at the company, knowing that it's not the responsibility of the supplier diversity team, but more so the entire organization to band together and partner with key advocacy groups, et cetera, to achieve our goals. Working to increase external engagement and communications is also part of a key objective. Our website needs clear updates to make sure that we're providing information to suppliers on how to contact us. We are increasing the number of conversations that we're having with diverse partners in the Columbia Gas of Maryland territory and others. And we will be increasing that, as well as partnering with others that I heard on the call today. So please expect to hear from me as I learn more about what you've done to achieve success, some of whom I've worked with in the past at Exelon and BGE and PEPCO. We also have a goal to include diverse suppliers in all bids where possible, as well as, hub zones, as mentioned by Michelle Burnett, earlier in the presentation. We have a real opportunity in Garrett County in particular to leverage those historically underutilized business zones that have small business concern. Overall, we're excited to participate for the first time in this session, Alicia and I, knowing that Columbia Gas of Maryland has been reporting and a part of the MOU since 2009. We look forward to feedback, ideas, comments, and thoughts, but we're passionate and committed. And as Alicia said, challenge accepted.
Thank you, ladies, for that presentation. We appreciate knowing what Columbia Gas. Obviously, you're a multi-state company. You could leverage off of those supplies and those contracts. So we wish you well in the next year, and thank you for sharing your forecast with us.
Thank you.
We'll next turn to representatives from Chesapeake Utilities.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Hello. I am Amy Zook, and with me today is also MQ Writing, who has previously represented Chesapeake Utilities. I am a procurement sourcing associate with Chesapeake Utilities, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to represent Chesapeake Utilities and attend today's hearing with you. Thank you, MQ Writing, for your guidance over the past year as I prepared for my first PSC hearing. There are many opportunities to grow and develop our programs with the support and partnership of the Eastern Shore Energy Alliance. We continue to meet to share best practices and identify diverse contractors who live and work on the Maryland Eastern Shore. 2020 was a year of overcoming obstacles, learning, and adapting to so many unknowns in the COVID environment. It was also a year to recognize the critical need to support our local diverse business owners and our local economies. Chesapeake Utilities maintains an ongoing commitment to keep costs down while ensuring we are supporting local diverse businesses on the Eastern Shore. One major challenge we continue to face is an increase in prices across our supply chain for steel, parts, and major supplies, and a decrease in availability for such items. Steel prices have risen more than 30% since December of 2020. Shortages of raw materials constrict supply across multiple categories of goods, driving price increases in the market. Chesapeake Utilities Procurement Department is working diligently with suppliers to establish pricing agreements across the Eastern Shore, Ohio, and Florida. Over the past year, we've had several successful initiatives to support our diverse suppliers. The campaign that began in November added 186 supplier diverse designations. We continue to encourage new and existing suppliers to report their diverse status, including the NAICS self-certification form with all new vendor application packets. The procurement team met with Anthony George at the Delaware Small Business Development Center to record an interview series related to procurement and diversity. This interview series is designed to provide small business insight on how to serve large companies. Ultimately, it will help our efforts in Maryland, as many of our contractors work the entire Delmarva Peninsula. We continue to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout our company. Cheryl Martin, Senior Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, said, Chesapeake Utilities Corporation fosters and values a culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion. When our business partners share these same values and beliefs, we all benefit. As a corporation, we are committed to finding ways to increase both our spend and our partnerships with diverse vendors and suppliers, and we dedicate resources to support EDI-related initiatives. We have an established community affairs team and internal committees that collaborate on the alignment of charitable contributions, community engagement, and volunteer initiatives with our business objectives. A vendor registration portal has been developed to centralize potential supplier information, including a section on diversity. To ensure our commitment to our customers and suppliers, we've drafted a supplier code of conduct statement, which is currently being reviewed by our legal team. As the world begins to open up, we continue to look for additional marketing opportunities to increase the awareness of Chesapeake's procurement process. We will continue to foster established relationships with our local chambers of commerce from Elkton to Ocean City, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and other like organizations. Chesapeake Utilities has adopted OSHA protocols for our employees, and when these safety protocols allow, we will resume attendance at purchasing and procurement expos. The Supplier Diversity Program average annual growth in DSR since 2009 is 8.21%. Chesapeake Utility Corporation's 2020 DSR was 12.88%, and we've set a target DSR of 15%. Through increased education, partnering with diverse businesses, and encouraging certification, we're optimistic this goal will be met and possibly exceeded in the coming years. So, thank you again for your time.
Great. Ms. Zook, Ms. Riding, good seeing both of you again. Thank you for the proposals. We look forward to your score and moving it somewhat upward in the coming year.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Next, we'll turn to our friends over at Easton Utilities.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Simonson.
Chairman Stanek and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity today. I'm Kelly Simonson, the Marketing and Communications Manager for Easton Utilities. I'd like to start by saying that
Ms. Simonson, can you raise your volume somewhat? It's hard to hear. We could hear you, but just barely.
Oh, sure. Is that any better? I can talk louder.
That's better, yes.
Okay. I'll start fresh. I'd like to start by saying that we encourage diverse business owners to showcase their product, services, and capabilities and share how they can help Easton Utilities and our customers. That said, we perform a majority of our work with internal resources, and outsourcing is limited to large projects. In addition, as a rural municipal utility, we also have the obligation to support competitive engagement from local businesses who represent our customer owners. As requested, I'd like to address the Easton Utilities plans to prioritize our future diverse spending to reach the target goal of 25%. First, I'd like to touch on just one minor obstacle we faced during COVID. While we continued to provide all the essential services without missing a beat, there were some reservations and limitations for several projects by various contractors. With reduced interaction with the utility forum and other means of locating new diverse suppliers, we chose to make direct outreach to specific diverse contractors for specific projects. Unfortunately, those contractors declined the opportunity to bid. However, we exerted more laser focus than ever in trying to link opportunities with suppliers. In prior years, we held a diverse supplier open house with the Eastern Shore Energy Alliance that Amy mentioned. That's a partnership between Easton Utilities, Chesapeake Utilities, and Choptank Electric. So we did not hold that this year, unfortunately, but hope to do so in the future. As far as our plans to prioritize diverse spending, we will continue to increase awareness in our procurement practices regarding the importance of Easton Utilities partnering with diverse businesses. We will continue to utilize the utility forum to find and engage new diverse suppliers when opportunities become available. We will continue to promote our commitment to supplier diversity in many ways, to include online and via social media. And we will continue our commitment to this program from the top level of our organization. Some of the support to achieve the 25% goal in the future, Easton Utilities continues to partner with the Eastern Shore Energy Alliance to further engagement in our diverse businesses on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We met over the past years and shared best practices as well as our vendor list with each other just to help spread the word and awareness of who we're all using and collaborate on those. We have enjoyed working with the forum and the interactive process for updating the MOU to match the maturity of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simonson. We recognize the challenges and struggles of a small municipal company like yours, particularly on the Eastern Shore. So we appreciate your efforts and continued participation.
Thank you, Chairman Stanek.
The last utility we'll hear from before we hear from our special guest, the wind developer, is the Choptank Electric Cooperative. Hello, Ms. Troutman.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Troutman, Manager of Finance and Regulatory Affairs for Choptank Electric. Also present today is Sarah Dahl, General Counsel for Choptank Electric Cooperative. Choptank is a not-for-profit, member-owned electric distribution cooperative serving all 9 counties on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We are governed by a board of directors that is elected by our member owners. We are guided by 7 cooperative principles, one being concern for community, which includes supporting local businesses. Choptank remains accessible to all companies who want to do business with us. Available on our website is a vendor contractor package for businesses who are interested in working with Choptank. Contained in this package is information regarding the MOU and a supplier diversity forum. Additionally, Choptank has worked with the forum to update the MOU. Choptank's commitment to the Eastern Shore Energy Alliance remains strong, and we continue to meet virtually in 2020. Communication with some vendors pivoted to email or virtual meetings during the pandemic, and no major obstacles were experienced. In 2020 and currently, we are experiencing long lead times and price increases from manufacturers. In 2019, Choptank leadership decided to take the direction of performing more jobs in-house. This action reduced our sourceable and diverse spend, but was a savings to our members. Our geographic location continues to be an obstacle in achieving the 25% goal. We look forward to our continued partnership with ESEA, and as always, Choptank remains committed to supporting all businesses in our community. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Troutman. As I stated at the beginning of this roll call, regardless of the spend percentage, we do appreciate all of our utilities participating in this worthwhile program. So thank you for presenting. At this time, as we move towards wrapping up today's conference, we're going to receive an update from the Skipjack Wind Farm, and we'll hear from Mr. Grant Van Weidergarden. He's the Deputy Head of Procurement for Ørsted Offshore North America. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, can you please confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to present to you today and very grateful for this opportunity. As a brief introduction, Ørsted is a company dedicated to promoting renewable energy. We are a developer, builder, owner, and operator of offshore winds globally and here in the United States. We are developing the Skipjack Wind Project, which will be coming online in 2026. And an important aspect of our progress in the U.S. has been our commitment to building a new industry and developing the domestic supply chain to enable it. We are incredibly proud of our presence in Maryland, which is cemented through our Skipjack Wind Project. In terms of our recent progress with MBE engagement, overall expenditure has been light because of the realignment of the project's construction schedule. As the project resumes towards the 2026 online date, I am confident that greater achievements will be reported on. The Skipjack project's plan for supplier diversity and minority business enterprise engagement details our planned actions to achieving our overall target of 29% MBE spend for work performed in the state. We have and will continue to require our prime contractors to pursue this same MBE goal. Despite the light spend in recent developments, I'm delighted to report on early achievements towards our goals. At least 6 certified MBE firms have been contracted by Skipjack or our prime contractors. This includes the civil construction and heavy piling works performed at Sparrows Point, which will be a central figure in the future U.S. supply chain for offshore wind. These early achievements highlight the potential for MBE participation in this future industry. I am encouraged by this progress for the potential of the offshore wind industry to create sustainable, high-quality opportunities for MBE firms. I and Ørsted are very grateful for the opportunity to present to you today, and we look forward to future opportunities to share with you on our progress towards achievement of our MBE goals and working with exceptional firms in the state. And lastly, just wanted to highlight that our participation today demonstrates our commitment to our MBE and supplier diversity plans and goals. As we progress the development of the Skipjack Wind project, I'm hopeful that we will be climbing the ladder of companies presenting in this forum as we are encouraged by the great work that they are doing and demonstrating. Thank you for this opportunity, and I too am available for any questions that you have.
Thank you, sir. And we recognize the economic development that your company is bringing to the state of Maryland, especially with the anticipation of the construction of some offshore wind turbines off of the Maryland and Delaware coast. So thank you for these efforts and for a focus on supporting our MBE and diversity programs here in the state.
Thank you.
That concludes the formal portion of our agenda. As we wrap up today with some closing thoughts, I'll turn to my colleagues, Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to congratulate all of the utility companies for another successful year of participating in the MOU program. When it was first envisioned, I don't think we thought that it would turn into something as extensive as this. But I know that those who've been around for a while have been very pleased with the progress that it's made. And you've heard from some of our panelists and speakers earlier today that this program is something that has been not only raised as an example across the country, but it's been copied and emulated by a number of states as a successful way to deliver a supplier diversity solution for their utility industry. So I had 2 points I wanted to raise up. First, I wanted to suggest that there were several new faces on here today presenting on behalf of different companies, some of which I've seen for the first time. So I'd like to welcome you, encourage you to reach out and interact with your colleagues and counterparts in the other utility companies, and to take advantage of the information and experience that's shared in the utility forum meetings. Meetings have probably been virtual, like many of the meetings we've had over the last year and a half. So for those companies that may have a little travel if their meeting was in person, it's actually easier. So I'd encourage you to get involved and engaged in the forum. If you're interested in participating on the leadership side, to do so. And so that you can learn from the mistakes that others have made before you, and you can continue to advance your particular company's success in this program. And the second thing for all of the utilities is to encourage you to pay attention to the many new industries that are developing today. As we've heard from our panelists earlier, this is a unique and very special opportunity and special time to embrace and encourage the development of new diverse firms, firms that would be active in our supplier diversity program here. There's a lot of opportunity either for those that are just beginning and for those that would like to expand and branch out to try new types of engagement with companies in the energy and utility industry in general. So I'd encourage you to look for them, as you have your sit downs and your face-to-face interactions, to think a little bit about some of the initiatives that might not be, you may not have contracts for them now, but this industry is moving pretty quickly, and there will be opportunities that will come in the near future. So make sure to keep your ideas and your thoughts open to the possibility that there are new opportunities to embrace diverse firms in every possible way. And so with that, I'll leave you for another year. I look forward to seeing you along the way, and thank you for participating in this program again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Linton. I would just like to echo Commissioner Linton, thank the many participants today, from our legislators, our former commissioners near and far. We had a number of special guests, the PSC staff, the utility forum, but most importantly, the public service companies and utilities that participate again in this, I stress, voluntary program. We've seen the benefits year over year, and as Commissioner Linton just stated, there's additional value to be gained. I suspect we will surpass $1.2 billion in spend in the coming year, but we've also heard some concerns today, and we've heard from Senator Malcolm Augustine, who dug into the numbers and figured out all the spend wasn't necessarily equitable amongst the various diverse suppliers and those constituencies. So we do look forward to what next year holds. As I stated, we will try to have our conference out in the community. I think we're all tired of the virtual format here. So I want to thank everybody again for participating today. As is customary practice, the commission will issue a determination shortly after the conclusion of this conference. Again, thank you for attending, and this year's annual conference is now adjourned.